Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Phil's Recap and Review. Tonight it's going to be The Sopranos, Season 2, Episode 10. Bust Out? Is that the name of the title? Bust Out of this episode?
That is the name, Bust Out.
Yeah, and Bust Out is a very interesting, fun episode of The Sopranos. I know I say that quite often when we do these streams, but there are great episodes of The Sopranos, and then there are pretty good episodes, and this, to me, is an excellent episode of The Sopranos. This perfectly encompasses all of what's awesome about early Sopranos in this episode, I think, and it's one of my favorite. But I'm not alone. I have with me, back again after not doing it for 900 and some odd days. We're back 2 weeks, or like we actually said, 2 weeks later. We got Big Daddy Matt in the live. Big Daddy Matt, and obviously we got the live motherfucking chat. So everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. We do want to talk about a couple of other things. Oh, there it is.
There it goes, Phil.
We're waiting for it, and I'm prepared. So there we go. I don't want to force Matt into a Garth situation this early on in the show quite yet. Not yet, but here we go. The live motherfucking chat. We got Zancy. We got YouTube is down from a worldwide, from the sound of it. No one can play or load videos. YouTube seems to be down. Love that you guys are doing The Sopranos. It looks like so. No one can actually watch us, Matt, but people are in the chat right now, like seeing that we're live.
That's so awkward.
But they can't actually talk to us. So if anyone's watching this later, I guess we're in the middle of the live motherfucking chat, unless they're lying to me right now. I guess we're in the middle of a worldwide YouTube shutdown right now because they knew we were going live. They were afraid. They were afraid. They're busting out our podcast right now. Yep. We gambled too much. We lost too much money. But everybody, if anyone does tune in at some point in time, thank you so much for checking this out. Matt, thank you for coming back. And Matt and I are really going to try to get season 2 done by the end of the year. That's the plan.
I'm just seeing if YouTube's working.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So Matt is trying to see if he can watch us on the video. But so tonight's episode is called Bust Out. We're going to get into it. If you haven't done one of these with us, what we're going to do is we're going to watch the episode live and talk about it. Both of us have also watched this episode within the last 24 hours. So we're going to be talking all over it. So if you've never watched it this way, if you've never seen The Sopranos, or you're not caught up, or if this is your first time, we're going to be spoiling the hell out of events that are going to come.
And talking over the episodes.
Annoyingly talking over the episode. So if this is your very first time watching this, watching The Sopranos, I don't recommend this being the type of commentary you go to. This is more of something people that have watched The Sopranos a shit ton of times and just want to rant and rave about it specifically.
I could not load YouTube, by the way, so that's
okay. So that's a thing. So that's an actual thing. So it's
my computer's as bad as I think it is, but It was not loading.
Either way, we're going to do this tonight. And Matt and I also want to talk about something, even though we're not live right now.
I want to talk about a couple of things. First of all, since the last time we did this, we have a new president. So big things have happened in the last 2 weeks. And Phil, if it was any other week, we'd be dedicating this to Alex Trebek somehow, because again, he's been around for our entire life. But go ahead, you tell him. Like, I'll give the background on him when you want it. But
okay, so growing up around we're Boston people, and I'm not going to speak to all the sports teams or whatever, but I've always been, if I'm anything towards a Boston sports fan, I'm a Celtics fan. When I was growing up in the early 80s with Parrish, McHale, Bird, that whole team, DJ, Ainge, that was the first great team. Because at the time, you can look at Boston, everyone hates us for sports reasons. And yeah, this is going to be a little bit of a side. So fast forward this a little bit if you're watching this later and you don't want to hear about sports ball for a bit. But basically, to make a long story short, the Celtics were the only good team when we were growing up. You see Boston now, and you guys suck. Your teams always win. Fuck you guys. I get it. I feel it, because we felt that when we were younger about other teams. So like, I get the hatred people have for Boston sports these days. I totally accept it. But there was a point in time where the sports whole thing in Boston was referred to as loser town. I believe there was a whole article in Sports Illustrated about it. How there was not championship, no one won except for the Celtics. The Celtics were the only good team. In fact, in 1986, the Celtics won the the Red Sox and the Patriots got their asses kicked in the World Series and the Super Bowl respectively. It was a shitty time. Anyways, my point
And
was,
like a couple years later, the Patriots, everyone only knows them as like winners now. They were going like 1-15. They weren't even on TV. They were terrible.
There's a reason why I'm a Raiders fan, and it's not because of where I was born. It's because when I was a kid, the Patriots sucked. And not only that, the biggest sports athlete, and I'm going on a side here, the biggest sports athlete in Boston at a certain point in time was Doug Flutie. And you could say that he was the biggest athlete in Canada for a while too. But and the Patriots wouldn't fucking play him. They played this crappy guy, Tony Eason, instead that fucking sucked. Or Grogan or something. It was a pile of horseshit. The Patriots sucked. Everything sucked. But the Celtics were great. And the Celtics had an announcer that was also a player and a coach. He won championships as an announcer, a player, and a coach for the Celtics. This guy, Tommy Heinsohn. Tommy Heinsohn was probably one of the most stereotypical Boston motherfuckers that you're ever going to imagine as a Boston guy. He was a hardworking dude, was on the same team as Kuzi and Russell and Havlicek, but wasn't as flashy, was sort of the Rodman of his time, but he could score a little bit better. But I would say that would be a better way of describing him. Linda, great to see you, and great to see anyone popping on in here. And we'll get to the Sopranos in a second, but we want to send a special memory to one of our favorites, honestly, because there was just something raw about him. When you hear a lot of announcers, and I'm getting to it, he was an announcer for the Celtics. He also coached for them, and he was a lifelong Celtic. No one bled green quite like this dude.
He was the NBA Rookie of the Year in 1957. He played for them for like 11 years, won 8 championships, was an All-Star 6 times. Then in like 1966, Red Auerbach said, hey, can you call games for us? So for 4 years, he called games. Then he coached them for 9 years. So all through the 70s, he coached them, won 2 more championships, and then started calling games for them nationally with this guy, Mike Gorman, as a team since 1980. So literally since 1957 through 2 days ago, Tommy Heinsohn has been part of the Celtics, like their entire history, and he's called games for essentially since Phil and I were 3 years old. He's been calling games for them.
Yeah, and I'm going to add one more thing to what you said, because great history on that, Matt. But the one other thing I'm going to add is he is like a Bostonian announcer, and you know him from that, but not dissimilar to Johnny Most, who was just a Boston announcer from what I know historically. Correct me if I'm wrong, comment section or anybody. But Tommy Heinsohn for a while, when he started initially doing commentary, after Red put him in that position, he did so well in the position that he was doing national televised games for a while. Like when the playoffs were happening, he'd be on one of the teams. He would be like Marv Albert and
he did 3 or 4 finals in a row in the 80s.
Right, and Kevin
Celtics
Hart
happened to be in them, but like he would have been calling him anyway.
Exactly. He was just the Charles Barkley of the time in some ways from an announcing standpoint. You put Tommy on to just speak his mind and tell you that the referees are full of crap. And there was point in times, and that's in his olden age, when he started to just not give a fuck. And I mean that in a good way, not that he was ever bad at his job. I mean not caring who he pisses off. He'd be in the announcer booth and he'd be screaming like he was a coach at the referee, just freaking screaming at them like, you fucking idiots. What kind of call is that? Like really going ridiculous on them. And everyone seems to think we're back. We are back, everybody. So you guys can actually hear us now. Anyone that's tuning in now, I think you
just in time to hear us talk about basketball. So.
Right, exactly. So if you didn't want to hear about us talk about basketball, we haven't actually started to talk about the Sopranos yet. This whole intro is about and just to sum it up quick, not to go through the whole thing again.
And he was loud. He was like, Walter.
What the fuck? And Matt had a great idea, and we're going to go with it tonight. In this Sopranos episode, and for the whole episode, we're going to give somebody the Tommy Award, because that's what he used to do. He'd give people Tommy points. You know, you get a Tommy point. Zancy, tonight, since you're the first one back in the chat since YouTube fixed, Zancy gets a Tommy point. Yep. We're going to be passing out Tommy points tonight to you guys.
And just so you know what a Tommy point is, Tommy points go to not necessarily the best player on the field, on the court, but the person who does the most hustle, who goes after a loose ball, who goes up for a rebound, who takes a charge. They get Tommy points. So usually Tommy points go to like unsung heroes. There was this guy, Walter McCarty, and with our Boston accents, Walter McCarty, who played in the early 2000s. And Walter got Tommy points every night. So like we're going to be giving out Tommy points, and at the end of the night, someone will get the Tommy Award.
Yes.
And if people are in the chat the whole time, you too can get a Tommy point.
Yeah, you guys are getting. We're gonna pass out 2 Tommy Awards at the end. The chat Tommy Award if we have people in the chat tonight, and for the episode, we're gonna talk like this sometimes. No, we're not gonna talk like that the whole time. Don't worry about that. But is this episode where Pussy gets shot? No, but we're getting close to that, Corey. The seeds for Pussy getting shot, I think, relate even more in this episode. I asked you last week, just to get this into the Sopranos a little bit, I asked you last week to say, did Tony notice anything in Pussy? Was Pussy right about noticing it? And I don't think he quite did yet, but in this episode, he definitely did. We're going to get to it in the episode, but when they're sitting in Danny Scatino's shop and Tony's pressing him about why has the FBI not talked to you yet, and Pussy goes, oh, they will. The way he says that, Tony might not register it, but again, it's like sitting at a poker table. You register the tell without realizing you're registering the tell.
Right.
And I think he picked up on something in Pussy right there, personally.
My chat isn't working perfectly. It's the last thing I have is from Pale Horse Rider saying, "Yep, down. What the heck?" I don't know.
Oh yeah, there's only one more chat since then with Corey Mitchell, so you may want to refresh it every once in a while. YouTube is. Maybe they're doing some update or something. So if there's any problems with this video, technical difficulties wise, or if anyone's having trouble tuning in live, as we mentioned, YouTube is up and down all evening. So before we start the episode, I want to give we're going to start the whole episode off right before anything. And I'm going to give my first Tommy point of the episode just to Paulie Walnuts, to Tony Sirico. And I'm going to play a clip. And yes, this may get flagged. This whole video may get flagged. Oh, it's back down again. Okay, so we're not going to pay attention too much to the chat. We'll say you guys comments in the chat. If anyone can hear this at any point in time, leave a voicemail or call on in at 781-990-8509 if you have anything to say. And I'm sorry for anyone that happens to be trying to watch this live, watching it later. I guess YouTube was having some live issues tonight.
And if someone is chatting in there and putting messages in and we give them Tommy points, they're not even going to know till afterwards that they're racking up Tommy points.
Exactly. So you'll have to watch later to see if you won the Tommy Award.
Yeah.
So fortunately, I have a video queued up. I'm going to play. This has nothing to do with the episode. I just thought it was funny. And I was going to either play it at the end or the beginning. So I'll play it at the beginning. This is a clip from the Talking Sopranos podcast. But everybody, this is a pub. So if it comes down to this being... Everybody, please subscribe to the Talking Sopranos podcast. You can do that on YouTube here where they do it live, where you can see both of them doing it live, or you can find it any place where you get podcasts. Just to give full credit, this clip is complete ownership of the Talking Sopranos podcast, but I do want to play a clip from Matt of them talking about what it's like to work with Tony Sirico, Paulie Walnuts.
If I was in a foxhole, I want to be with Paulie Walnuts.
No, yeah, he's a loyal soldier without a doubt, and capable.
Wings and all, cologne and all.
The Bevilaqua.
Cologne.
You'll be smelling good in the foxhole. You know that.
You know, now we talked about, I know we talked about that Tony sprays the Bevilaqua in your mouth when you're doing a scene with him. He'll say, open your mouth,
Right.
blow the stink off, and he sprays Bevilaqua in your mouth. But do we talk about his cologne, whatever the hell that cologne
Obsession,
is?
Calvin Klein.
And then he'll spray it on himself, and then
he has a tiny travel cologne dispenser or whatever, and he'll put that, and then he'll put it, and then he'll and they'll put it on you.
And he smacks you in the face with it, and then you smell like Tony Sirico / Paulie Walnuts all day for 2 days.
For 2 days, you'll wake up the next day and you smell like Tony Sirico.
I was when we were in the hotel room so many times in the hotel lobby. I'll smell it, and then sure enough, here he comes. I could smell him 15 feet away.
So everyone, please, if you're into The Sopranos, by all means, it's great. We appreciate you guys checking in with us and listening to 2 freaking idiots here talking about what we think and what we feel about Sopranos episodes. But definitely check out, again, Talking Sopranos. They're very funny stuff. You get to hear funny stories like that. Tony Sirico definitely sounds like, and they mention this a lot on the show, and I just want to talk about this going into this episode because they talk a lot about how you want to have someone like Paulie Walnuts on your side. And Tony Sirico is a lot like Paulie Walnuts. There's not James Gandolfini is not like Tony Soprano. You hear him at all. But Tony Sirico, you hear stories like that, and there's other stories that they tell throughout the Talking Sopranos, which with just weird stuff about him being superstitious in weird situations, or just some other weird, awkward things about Tony Sirico, and it's just hilarious, and that's why he is the essence on this show of Tommy points. That's why I wanted to play that clip, because it's important to the essence of what we're saying with Tommy Hudson. If Tommy Hudson was scoring The Sopranos, he would be the Walter of this show, and because he's always out there killing it. And also something that they talk about, and I like to take a few things that they'll talk about and bring it here to talk to you about, Matt. They talk a lot about how, and I mentioned this a second ago, how Paulie Walnuts is the kind of guy you want to have in a bad situation. He may be annoying, he may be bad, bad at some sort of things, uncomfortable or awkward, I should say, not bad. You bring him into a Starbucks, you bring him into other situations. But when Tony's at his worst situation in this episode, Matt, Paulie's the one that's trying to calm him down. And there is something to be said about that. Tony is lucky to have a guy like Paulie Walnuts. And he's, spoiler alert for The Sopranos, if you haven't watched it all the way through, he's pretty much the last one he has left at the end.
And he's fearless. He's like literally not scared of a person he runs into.
Nope.
Holds his own against Richie, holds his own against everyone.
No, he doesn't. And I can't think of a situation or a person where we've seen Paulie be, I mean, irregardless of other supernatural kind of forces. We're going to come upon it, and we're going to have a guest, my good friend The Walking David's going to join us when we do the episode Pine Barrens in season 3, because I think it's an episode that deserves a detailed, long-form discussion about it. But that's an episode where we see Paulie off his rhythm, and I think post season 4, after the jail time thing, we see Paulie a little bit more on tilt through the back half of the series, when he finds out the thing about his mother not being his mother, and certain situations we see him off kilter. But Paulie is definitely just good for Tony to have. Tony, he's always on Tony's side, and I think Tony. That's why at the end of the series, when Tony comes to a point with almost killing him, he's like, I can't do that. Paulie's my only guy that I really have to count on. Okay. So enough foreplay with all of this. If anyone is watching this with us later, anything else you have before we start the episode, Matt?
I just want to point out 2 things about this episode in particular, and I'll get on them specifically when we get in there. First of all, the one thing I don't love about this episode, as I was watching it again last night, and I've been watching a lot of Sopranos lately, sort of to get myself back in the mood for this, is there's a lot of people missing from this one, I believe. I don't think we really see, if I remember correctly, I don't think there's a Chris. So let's look for people that should be in there or usually are in this sort of run of episodes.
No Christopher, no Bobby, who is more instituted. You do have Junior, but he's in very briefly, I believe.
Yeah. You
have Junior in that one scene. Carmela's big in this episode. You have one quick Artie scene, but is Syl in this episode?
I want to say he might be in one of the.
No,
one or two of the scenes when they're. I think he's in one of the scenes when they're at the sporting goods store.
It's more than anything. It is a Tony and Carmela episode.
Yeah.
They each have their own particular storylines and their own challenges. Carmela, and they talk about this a lot in the Talking Sopranos podcast, so I might be stealing a little bit of their stuff, but it's true. Carmela is interesting in this episode. She is, like they say in a video games terms, she's Argo. She's punching Tony. She's being aggressively seducing this guy at a certain point in time, inviting him over for something I don't know. When this is something that Michael Imperioli, Christopher, pointed out to forever be mentioned as Christopher from the rest of this podcast. Christopher mentions the thing that Carmela offers to cook him when he comes over for lunch is this meal that's extremely heavy that makes you want to feel like you want to lie down after you eat it. So it's like little subtle touches. She's got the Memoirs of Geisha book with her the whole time through the whole episode. It's interesting, and when she gets into the fight with Tony, she punches him and she's really physical with him in a like aggressive, antagonistic kind of way. It's an interesting Carmela episode. It's one. Edie Falco is amazing in this episode.
Also, another thing to point out, and I had never noticed this till I started rewatching it recently, because I've seen this episode probably 2 times in the last 2 months, is all of the things that they are bringing into the sporting goods store show up throughout the episode in different places. And I'm going to point them out every time I see one or catch one in there. So
no,
it's fun how they put it all in there, and they just kept. It's great. Well, I'll point them out when we get.
No,
to them.
it is really great, and it's. Did you ever? And they were talking about this on their cast as well. Do you remember stuff like that when we were kids? When stuff would just show up? Did you ever get anything hot? Did you ever buy anything hot?
I mean, I don't want to start throwing out members of my family.
Right, you don't have to say. Let's say, because both of us. Let's say I have a member X in my family. I think you have a member X in your family. That definitely got things like that. I definitely had a family member, which I'm not going to say names of names. You don't have to either. You don't specify. But yeah, you dealt with that.
They're dead, but yes, I had someone that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I dealt with they're dead as well. But I dealt with that a lot. Or one of them has passed. That knew that sort of trade to a certain extent. And every holiday season, you'd get something that was you definitely got it off the truck. You know, it was interesting, and that's what's really cool about this episode, and I know it does have its challenges. Christopher is very much missing in this episode. I think it's
the pussy stuff's brutal, but we'll get into that when we get.
And I think it's building up the Richie thing for the conclusion that we're going to get. It's a lot of building up whether Richie can actually do this, and what leads into the next couple of episodes when he goes to Junior and tries to figure it out to the point of making a move on Tony and being charming enough. You know, the next step, I think it's the next episode, the episode afterwards. I can't wait, because it's a really great Junior episode where he's like, Richie is he's short, but he's a giant of a man, and then he comes back after failing. He's like, yeah, he couldn't sell it. He's horrible.
So, you know, the other day I just turned the TV on and Goodfellas was playing, and I never realized this before, but there's a scene in Goodfellas where someone gets busted out like this. The guy, he buys a restaurant with him.
Yeah.
They have that character also is actually, that actor is in The Sopranos. I think it's Albert he plays, or Larry someone or other is the same guy that gets busted out. But I think this is probably an homage to that, because that shows it's all the scene's very, very similar. It's not drawn out over, like, you know, it's probably 5 minutes in Goodfellas, but it's the same thing of him going in and them just
he takes over the restaurant.
They just do the same thing. They buy everything on credit, and he just gets busted out at the end, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, I believe
they just ruin his credit, and it's the same person. When we see him in here, I'll point out that that's the guy from Goodfellas that gets busted.
Yeah,
out.
and this is a thing for anyone asking. This is definitely a thing that really does happen, and I love that aspect of this show. Beyond just because that it's not just in this episode, Matt. There's so many things that connect to Goodfellas, and I love it, and I love that. Just
including some of the actors. I mean, that's, like I said, I believe it's the guy that plays. I think his name's Larry in The Sopranos. We'll see. He's either in this episode or the next one.
Yeah.
All right, let's get started. We keep running our mouths here. And
okay, so let's get started. What do you pause at? Are you at 0-0?
I'm at 0-0.
Okay.
I hope it starts up when I do it.
Me too. So everybody, if you're wanting to watch this episode with us, we will give enough context so you don't have to watch us. You can listen to this as a podcast, or you can watch with us. But if you can, pause it, get synced up.
Are we going on one, or are we going on after one?
1, 2, 3, go.
No, I didn't do it right now. Were we?
No, that's not it. No.
So we're gonna go on go.
So yeah, I'll go 1, 2, 3, go. And then we go. Okay. So we're doing it different this time. So I think that maybe is the funniest thing to ever come out of Lethal Weapon, because I don't know who said that before Lethal Weapon, but that's the first thing I know it from, where it's the, do we go on Lethal Weapon 2 when they're getting
up the
real
thing. It's a real thing everyone runs into at some point in their life.
Yeah, that's the best. Those are the best satire situations of life. And I think The Sopranos is very good at that too, especially in Tony and therapy situations. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. I think we're good. You can probably hear mine, right?
Yeah, but you're like a half a second ahead of me. We're fine.
Okay, cool. Sweet. Perfect. So we're starting it out. Is the volume really loud on coming through on whatever. We're gonna test it out. This video, since we're not really going live to many people right now, this video might be flagged for. I want to see how much of the audio I can actually have on here before it gets flagged. Hey, people in the live chat, because Muhammad's still in the live chat. Zancy, I think, is in there. Can you guys actually hear us? Just as we're starting the episode. There's something about this intro, Matt. We talked about this before, but there's just something about this intro that gets me hyped for a TV show. Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Potter Broadway fan says we can't hear us. Okay, perfect. So here we go. Starting the episode. Good. Okay, I'm glad people can hear us, Matt. It's a better option. You know, it's better when a few people can hear us. Right. But yeah, I love this freaking theme song.
I saw an interview with Steven Van Zandt once, and he was like, he said, oh, the song was just sort of like, you know, just hearing the song out of context, it's a little cheesy and a little over the head, you know, woke up this morning, got yourself a gun. He goes, but as soon as you see it, it's like David Chase killed it, you know?
Yeah, there's something about certain songs are whatever songs, but when they match up to the right video are really awesome. So we didn't even talk about this in the intro here. We get this whole side story where Tony gets eyeballed by this guy who is it's a bit part, but I think this guy makes me laugh through the episode the 2 times we see him.
Yeah, I'm totally disconnected on time now. I messed with it and messed it up, but I'll get there.
Oh, you're screwed. I'm at 2 minutes and like 5 seconds about.
Okay, I am too.
Okay, cool.
He's talking to the cops right now?
Yeah, the cops are talking right now. Yeah. So this opening scene, The Sopranos likes to do this. Breaking Bad does this a lot too. Starting off an episode with someone you don't know in a different situation and wondering how this connects to our story. And in this situation, that we got a guy that witnessed the murder. We saw a murder at the end of last episode, right? And apparently this guy was there, which is a surprise to me.
Right. No, we had no idea.
Yeah, we had no idea. We didn't see him. They didn't. And this is what's awesome about The Sopranos next to other shows. Any other show will show you that guy at the end of the episode for a little spoiler for the next episode. They don't feel like they have to do that. Interesting transition as we go over to Tony here. Tony is interesting in this episode. We were talking about this last week. All the hypocrisy of Tony. We see Tony's jealousy come out big time in this episode too.
Yep.
Turn down a little bit. And throughout this episode, Matt, he acts like he didn't do anything wrong throughout the whole episode. Do you think he's compartmentalized it to the point where he doesn't think he actually did anything wrong or actually did it? Or do you think he thinks he was justified? It seems like like a couple of times in the episode, I'll point him out to you.
Well, I mean, Matthew Bevilaqua tried to kill his nephew. He's 100% in his mind in the right to go avenge that.
Yeah, it's true. And he was rationalized within their business and within their world to make that kill.
I don't believe Christopher's not made yet, so he can't do it based on that, but he is his nephew, so.
I wonder how the recommended in the chats work, but the video doesn't. That seems weird. Okay, so it's working for some people, not working for others. Richie doesn't give a fuck. Richie, no one talks to Tony. Even when we get into Ralphie, no one, maybe once Ralphie talks to Tony this way towards the end, and we see what happens in that episode. But Richie just does not give a fuck.
Right.
And Tony almost respects it, I think. This is a fun scene because why do you think he wants to spend more time with AJ? What brings this on?
Well, it was the last episode when he told him, Matthew Bevilaqua, I think is what brings it on. He watches a kid who goes in the wrong direction and ends up getting murdered, and then he realizes that his son, I don't know what he thinks. I know he doesn't want AJ to be. Yeah,
but and they talk about this in a little bit in the Talking Sopranos too. AJ's not getting in the, I guess he says it here. He wants to toughen AJ up a little bit. He thinks he's a little like soft.
Yeah, like in Tony's world, he knows, and you juxtapose him with like I don't know if I don't think it's in this episode, but um
Jackie. Oh.
no, Richie's son. You know the thing with Richie's son where
Oh
he's
yeah.
a ballroom
Yep.
dancer, and you know that leads to the biggest scene of season 2 maybe.
Yeah. We'll get into a couple of episodes
right.
from now. And I like how Tony calls Carmela on her wise assery
Can you not
here.
be sarcastic?
Yeah, and she dials it back. Cause he. Awesome, Oakley. Great to talk to you. Great to see Oakley in the live motherfucking chat.
They can see it now. Oh, I guess they're gonna sit up then and get focused.
Some people, yes. So I think it's going in and out. I think they're probably doing some update or some shit.
So here it is. This is what is it called? Remlosa?
Remlosa, the water.
Yeah, Remlosa. That's going to show up throughout the
Yeah,
episode.
it comes
great.
back. It comes back in the scene with Artie. It's great.
Yeah, and it's another time too. We'll point it out.
And the blue coolers come out.
Yeah.
And Robert.
Oh, red. He wants the red. He says the red sells, and he tells him, no, you only get me red.
And then of course we have Andy Scatino here in this episode. Robert Patrick. Some people might know.
Danny Scatino.
Danny Scatino, thank you. Robert Patrick's character, who you know him from a lot of stuff. Robert Patrick's been in a lot of shit. He's a good actor. But the thing you'll know him most from, of course, is Terminator 2. Tony is freaking amazing with him in this episode. Do you feel bad for Danny Scatino, or did he do this to himself?
He did this to himself. I mean, Tony told him not to play a bunch of times.
Yeah, he tried. He warned him. He warned him not to play the game. He did
many times. He
Many
said, "Don't
times.
play the game."
Yeah. So you can't really blame. But Tony explains the Scorpion the Toad thing, where and people don't know the Scorpion and Toad. We'll get into it a little bit later, but it's basically, I think I'm paraphrasing, where the Scorpion is dying or something or falling, and it's like begs the Toad to save me, save me, save me. The Toad saves the Scorpion. The Scorpion kills the Toad, and then the Toad's like, "What the hell? I saved you." And he goes, "It's in my nature."
Right.
I believe I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I think that's the gist of the parable. This is me. This scene right here is me as a kid. Me as a kid. Me now. Do you have any bugs you freak out about? Or
Yeah,
any?
I don't like bugs. I have no problem with rodents. I'm like down with all rodents. Centipedes and spiders, I'm not a fan of at all.
Does do you have to have Mrs. Ice handle the bug kill?
I'm not. I don't. She knows I'm scared, but I still kill them.
You
She just
still
knows
kill
I don't like it. She knows I'm not a fan, but it's like she's not as. But she's petrified of like rodents, and I'm not.
Okay,
at all.
so that's good. You guys have that good parallel.
Yeah,
thing. So this is a funny scene because their maid is almost the bane of Tony's existence at sometimes. Warrant. Warrant. He's great in this episode. He shows so many different emotions. I think even if you can say that the Sopranos story isn't as tight as it always could be, especially towards the end, his performance is legendary. There's only a handful of like 2 or 3 performances in the history of television that are this iconically amazing, or like I would say a very small handful of performances.
Honestly, I don't even think there's one that's this good, but that's me.
You wouldn't put Cranston in the same category to a certain extent?
No, because at the end of the day, I don't find him to be a believable character.
Okay, fair. Let me think of some other ones. How about if we go to comedy? Someone like the actor that played Archie Bunker, or Ralph Cramden with the greats like Jackie Gleason.
Sure, 100%, but they don't have to do the depth. I mean, when Tony is deep into this character, there's like nothing like it on TV.
Yeah, no, it's hard for me to argue with you because I would say the biggest argument would probably be someone like Don Draper if you're into Mad Men. Or
never watched it, but my wife did. But I don't think he has to do. Does he have to do that range of?
Yes.
Okay.
He does. It's not as important of a show. It's not as dynamic of a show as we're going to talk all over the pussy in the skip scene. Let's talk about Mad Men during this scene, Matt.
This is probably the worst acting in this entire show.
Matt, if you badmouth this episode, I'm gonna punch you in that boar's head of yours.
It's
He-
so awful.
he just-
This is the worst acting. Like we really shouldn't even.
In fairness, like neither, like you put two. Okay, Pussy works when he's with Tony because Gandolfini's such a good actor, he can bring him up.
Yeah.
But when you put these two together, which should not be in the same scenes together, like
No.
they're just, it's a bad combination. It's a bad combination. These are some of the worst scenes in the entire series. They're almost as
so
bad as
bad.
Jackie Jr. in Meadow scenes.
The whole here and then the next 2 episodes with Pussy when he starts going down the whole like he wants to be an FBI agent. It's like so awful. It's again, I think that's if they made this show today in 2020 with all of that they know about other television shows, they would have left that.
Now,
out.
Matt,
It's
we're gonna give
terrible.
David Chase a Tommy point here for being able to have this show be as awesome with relying on characters like Pussy. David Chase. David
First
Chase.
Tommy point goes to David Chase.
We're dealing with this. One thing I have doubts about with The Sopranos, says Oakley, is the dynamics between the wise guy and the FBI. In this show, the FBI is never anything but polite to them, and they do nothing but give them abuse. So, meaning the way like Agent Harris reacts with Tony and such. I would agree with that to a certain extent, especially towards the end of the series, where the biggest
When they're like friends.
Right, where the biggest war that the Sopranos are in the entire series is solved by Agent Harris breaking protocol and telling Tony how to find Phil.
Yeah.
So I would agree with you, Oakley. And I don't know if they did that knowing that would be the end game. I doubt it, but maybe. So they had to kind of set that up and show how Tony can even charm the FBI to the point where they kind of view him as a pulp wise guy, sort of amazing creature. In the way that people look up, or in the way that Melfi's therapist looks at Tony, where in some ways looks at him like a comic book character to a certain extent. Like,
Right. Or the way any of those doctors he goes and golfs with look at him.
Exactly. And there's a whole episode about that, I believe, where he's in different circles because people want to associate with Tony Soprano. And here we got the Ghostbusters.
His lawyer is awesome in this.
Yeah,
This is one of my favorite characters.
He is, and he's the mayor from the Ghostbusters.
I didn't even realize that, but yeah. He's like Vincent LaGuardia was in my, or someone was in my room last night. Yeah.
I talked to Vincent LaGuardia for 4 hours. He's been dead for 32 years. Something like that.
So. No, I think we see her later. There's a character who they have the wrong person playing him here from what's later on in the.
We have a couple of things like that popping up in The Sopranos. Sopranos isn't great about that compared to.
Again, they didn't realize. I mean, you watch like show like Law and Order, and like everyone, they have so many people that are on there like 4 times as 4 different people.
Matt, you're absolutely right, and this is something you deal with a lot of shows if you watch from the 90s into the early 2000s. People, back then, didn't realize people would be binge watching television on these ultra
friggin' blogging about it the next morning, and like people dissecting every word that came out of someone's mouth
on ultra high definition televisions.
Yeah.
Being able to spot everything. So you watch some 80s shows and some stuff, you look in the background and you see that everything doesn't match up. Shows nowadays, everyone is sitting there as everyone thinks they're cinema sins or something. That they're looking for, how does this show fuck up? Because of assholes like me and other people that are out here pointing out all mistakes in shows. Everyone, no, it's not because of us, but it's this way where everyone can kind of look at shows now and pick them apart because everyone binges stuff so much. And you can kind of look into it in a way that only film students looked at movies. And the way people watch series these days, where you watch the series you love, like The Sopranos or Breaking Bad or Mad Men or whatever, or Game of Thrones, whatever your thing is, you rewatch these series so many times and you notice these little points.
You want to go back and say, well, wait a minute. Now that I know the end, I have to watch this develop over 10 seasons.
And I think The Sopranos was Sopranos, The Wire, Oz, St. Elsewhere, Lost, 24, all the start of this era of television. And especially with The Sopranos, they didn't know what they were doing at the time. They didn't know that they were inspiring long-form, epic storyline television. So sometimes all the I's and J's don't have dots on The Sopranos because they're not. Same with
considering all of that, they crush it. That's the thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's same with a show like different kind of show, different kind of era, different kind of audience. But I would say the same thing with a show like Quantum Leap, where they didn't know the era of people would look into sci-fi shit, but still kind of holds up for the most part. A couple things I want to flash by. Carmela met Danny Scatino's brother-in-law. They had an instant spark, and then his wife was like, "Don't flirt with her. She's Tony Soprano's husband." Tony Soprano's
wife, and he says, "Well, I don't care who she's married to. I respect the ring." But
absolutely. And then we flash over to Scatino. Do you think was he playing Russian roulette there, or was he just feeling what it feels like to have?
He
a gun
was
in his
seeing
mouth?
like, I'm getting to that point. Let me just take it for a test drive.
Yeah. And we got SM down, Jay in the live motherfucking chat. Awesome. HBO Max's Young Justice. Perfect excuse for me to watch that. I'm very excited. I'm very eager to watch a DC animated thing right now. Okay, so we flash over to this scene after the scene with Danny with the gun.
I never realized you got to see his ass there. That sucks.
Yeah, you definitely do. Janice is such a manipulator. She right now is playing Richie. She's working him. She's doing that stuff like while he's having sex, trying to manipulate him with like plant seeds into him to kill Tony. That's basically the scene is she wants Tony dead and wants to be
while she's
queen.
letting him point a gun at her head because that's how sick she is.
Yep.
Like,
and
she says in a later episode, sometimes it's loaded. Like, it's crazy.
I feel so bad for people in the live chat that are popping on in. We got Amani, we got SM, we got Oakley. It seems like not everyone can watch us live. Hopefully you guys are watching this at a later date, but we're thinking about you. And Amani, you might watch this later, you might not, but either fucking way, Amani, you get a fucking Tommy point. Tommy fucking point. And you know who else gets a Tommy point? Richie gets a Tommy point and Janice get a Tommy point for giving us this fucking sick ass shit because yes, Matt, he's pointing a gun at her. And does Richie do the same thing with her later? Or it's the other way around. She points a gun at Richie later, I believe.
What, it's sexually?
Yeah, not Richie. This is Richie. Ralphie.
Right, yeah.
I believe her and Ralphie have a weird scene like this later on as well.
Oh, lots of stuff, yeah. And he goes, I'm old school, Janice.
I'm old school. And how do you make up that stuff? You're not in the moment.
Right, you're not in the moment. You're the boss. You're the fucking boss.
You're the boss. It should be you. Kill my brother. And it's Janice is in full control as much. She is the perfect hodgepodge of Livia and Tony. She has both their worst qualities.
Yep.
She has Livia and Tony's worst qualities.
I'm old school, Janice. I called my wife up on the phone last night in the other room, and she's like, what? I'm like, I'm old school, Janice. She's like, what is wrong with you? Because I just watched this.
She's like, you need to stop hanging out with that Phil. This needs to stop. I don't like him. No, Jen made me cupcakes once, I know, and saved me when I was very sad one day. So
this is true.
Or I said her name, Mrs. Ice.
Everyone tries to get Tony killed. She's sitting here just trying to get Tony killed.
Right, exactly. So I don't understand why she exactly is trying to do that.
I think it's more about if Tony's out of the way, Richie will be number one, and she'll be number
one. Yeah, then she'll be Carmela. I think it's.
Look at this. Is the cock block? You know what? Tommy point for Livia right here. Down the stairs.
Tommy point for Livia.
Tommy point for Livia.
And I was gonna say that about Livia this episode. She's small but amazing in this episode. Yep. She comes down, and how they only have one TV in that house?
And then she goes, "Oh, you're Rose Kennedy."
Yeah, Rose, you're gonna spend my money like Rose Kennedy. And Carmela having a wet dream about the dreaming about
and
wallpaper.
Scatino's brother-in-law.
Yeah, and we gotta get
G2's brother-in-law.
We gotta give a Tommy point to Danny Scatino's brother-in-law right there. Tommy point.
He gets his Tommy. He gets it later.
Yeah,
he gets two of them.
Oh yeah, he gets a when he gets the makeout in the bathroom. He'll get a Tommy point then. So let me scroll down. I've got some little trivia and shit like that. Livia mentions Rose Kennedy's wealthy matriarch of the Kennedy family, and bed Carmela is reading memoirs of a geisha. When Richie visits Junior at his home, Junior is watching CBS daytime soap, The Bold and Beautiful. That's coming up pretty soon. Okay, this scene right here is where I think Tony is starting to realize Pussy. He's giving Pussy the up and down. He's giving him the look.
Well, he's wondering how the hell did they talk to me and they're not talking to you?
Yeah. But in fairness, in the reality of the situation, they wouldn't talk to Pussy because as we find out later we found out earlier, Skip, they didn't get an ID on Pussy. They just saw a
Right,
Stockley.
but Tony doesn't know that.
Right. And Pussy can't tell him that. So Tony is unnerved here. This is more like we see Tony later on in the series. We've up until this point, we've seen Tony be a little bit more lighthearted throughout the series, but this is a moment where we're seeing Tony be scared, as Milfy points out later. And I like Pussy trying to pretend to be upset, as he knows he's not seen. Pussy's a slippery prick. That scene might have sucked acting-wise, but the information in it was cool, which makes you wish... I think it would have been okay if they cast someone okay as Skip. I think the problem is Skip. It's not Pussy. Because I don't mind Pussy in scenes with the rest of them. I just don't.
Right. Well, I don't love him here, but Skip is the worst.
Skip's the worst. That actor's the worst. He's bad on Entourage, too. I don't know if you ever watched Entourage. He's horrible in Entourage, too.
Well, Tony's also very pissed at himself here because if you hear the way he's been acting with Richie recently and everyone else, his whole thing is, hey, I'm trying to take all the heat off of me. Hey, I'm not you don't talk business to me in front of Satriali's. I don't talk business. You talk to Sil. I don't do this. He's busting. He's busting back in your hole. I love it.
Get the fuck back in your hole, Davey. And it's amazing. Like Robert Patrick, is that his name again?
You're the one that said it. But.
Yeah, he's such an amazing actor because he plays such a meek character here that's bullied and pushed around. He brought this upon himself to a certain extent. Gambling's the worst. Like if you have an addiction to it like he does, it's horrible. You're just subtracting money from your bank account and it's hard to even reach a rock bottom until you're broke.
Right.
And then playing a character like T2 in Terminator 2, the Terminator 2000, and how intimidating he was in that role.
Yep.
I don't know. I just want to point out how amazing of an actor he is as well, and how he can play both hot and cold really well. So in that scene, we get Tony laughing and feeling like he was at the end of it all, and he can at least stop and laugh. Oakley says in the chat, I was wondering one or more of the reasons Tony was trying to spend more time with his kids is because of his fear of going away, or did it start before he knew that? I think it started before he knew that.
Yeah, he really didn't think anyone saw him with Matthew Bevilaqua, and that's why when they showed up at his house, that's the first time he's freaked out, and he knows he could be potentially fucked.
I'll be right back in 1 second, Matt. Take over.
Okay. Oh, so right here, one of the first times we see it in the episode is the water. So part of the bust out at the sporting goods store is they start ordering a bunch of shit on credit, and one of it, the two main things we learn about is this water, Ramolsa, and these red coolers. And right here, he goes out and says, "Oh, I know you ordered Pellegrino, but I got this incredible Ramlosa that I just got on, the first time I saw this episode, I didn't even realize they were doing that throughout the whole episode. And what's fucked up is there she is. That's Danny Scatino's wife.
Yep.
That is sitting there drinking the water that's
I know, it's
hers.
so
That's
beautiful.
her water. Like she's the one that owns the sporting goods store. They make a big deal out of that it's in her name so that he can't actually gamble the business away. Little did she know he did, but
doesn't Carmela later give one of the coolers to Vic too?
Oh, absolutely.
That happens later a little bit.
Yep. Oh, go guts.
Oh yeah, and this is another scene where obviously Tony got this from the sporting goods store.
Right. I got a great deal on it.
And I want to say a special hello, if you're able to be listening to this, to our biggest Sopranos podcasting listener, Phyllis, who again sent us some messages. Want to make sure I said a bit hello to Matt as well. So Phyllis, thank you so much for the support, and thank you for being the ass kick Matt and I needed to be able to do this on a somewhat regular basis. So. And
it still took us 7 months to actually do it from when I was
exactly.
in my old apartment.
Exactly. You sent, and I think I first sent Matt the message. I'm like, oh, we got this message from a random person that's actually watching our fucking bullshit.
Yeah. It's at the beginning, before, in the springtime sometime. And again, Tony here is just freaked out because his son is going to the mall as like a
Yeah, the hangout thing. That was the same
Yeah.
when we were kids too. Like we didn't go on dates. We hung out with groups. We didn't really. When you were interested in a girl in our friend group, you didn't ask her on a date directly. You just like talked to her within the group.
Yeah.
You know, like you didn't. That's such a different generational thing of like.
right.
asking-
Tony's from like a time period of like you know, even if you look at like Goodfellas in the beginning, how he goes and dates her and picks her up at the house, and like that's the way you end up meeting a girl.
Exactly. And I love in this scene too. Tony's really good in this scene. Milfy and him are so good together. I'm so glad she didn't want to play Carmela because I think we got the best of both worlds because
Yep.
we get Edie as Carmela, which I think was better than she would be as Carmela, and I think no one else could have played Milfy quite the same way because she can still challenge him in that spouse way because of the dynamic that she brings from. I mean, she's a well-versed actor, but they cast her against him because of Goodfellas, and she
Right.
kind of has that personality comes out of her at times when she's yelling at him, and that's why you can see what she would have been as Carmela at times with the way Milfy challenges him. I think maybe even in this scene, yeah, like when she argues with him, we can't go in specifics. Fuck you. Like she can tell him off like no one can.
I could be going to the camp for the rest of my fucking life. And I'm not supposed to discuss it with my psychiatrist? What the fuck are you for anyway?
And this is the first, I believe, it's the second time because the first time was with Carmela, where he's basically absolving himself. He's not just saying, I did what was right. He's saying, I did nothing. And they keep fucking with me. And Steve, Bobby Bacala, points out on the podcast, he's like, I don't think that Tony is rationalizing it. I think he convinced himself. It's like when you tell those bigger lies, when you're Tony Soprano and you have to tell all these lies, you have to believe them. And they quote Seinfeld, like George Costanza, where Jerry, if you believe it, it's not a lie. And I think Tony is very much like this. And again, full credit to the Talking Sopranos podcast. I just stole something they were talking about. But I think it's absolutely true with Tony Soprano. He believes his lies. Not unlike someone that you and I are both friends with. That I don't want to talk about necessarily. We don't have to say his name, but he's similar to Tony Soprano in that way, where he believes his lies, so it's hard to tell when he's lying.
So, what the hell was I going to say now?
I interrupted talking about the person that we know that you're like, yeah, he is kind of like Tony
Yeah,
Soprano.
I know you got me on that right now, and I'm thinking about him. It's the last thing I want to think about. The thing that's weird about the Bevilaqua thing is you actually realize how much he cares and loves Christopher because at any point he could have had someone else do that, and he decided that he wanted to do that. He didn't need to go out there and do that. He could have given that to anyone and said, "Go do this."
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we even hear that in the episode where Pussy is originally going to go do that with Furio.
Right.
Like it's not even a hypothetical, Matt. It's Tony did not need to go on this.
Right.
Like they told him. Even Pussy was like, "Are you sure?" Like this is stupid. It's again, I'll do a Star Trek-y kind of thing. It's like if the captain decides to go on an away mission, go down on the planet. The captain shouldn't. It's the thing that doesn't make sense on old Star Trek that makes sense on Next Generation. Picard never goes down on a mission, but Kirk always does. Tony shouldn't be going on there.
No, but Christopher is much closer to being his son still at this point.
It's true,
where he
and
treats him like that.
that's why he's in on it. I know it's not the Drew, but it's funny. We got a longtime viewer and listener of the show, Matt, whose name is 1-800 the Drew.
Love it.
Yeah, so just in comparison to one of Matt's closest friends and one of my an old friend of mine, a good friend of mine as well. The Drew, we have a friend called the Drew, or
the Drew.
The Drew.
There's an article on that.
so we got the 1-800 the Drew. Okay, this is an interesting scene with Tony where he almost allows himself to be friends with Danny again, because Danny and Tony's relationship is not dissimilar to yours and my relationship, in the sense of like they knew themselves early on in school and they were generally friends throughout school. Like they kind of have that dynamic.
Right.
1-800 the Drew's gonna say, just gotta say it. It's been a minute. I love you, Phil, and everybody. Matt and I love you too, Drew. Hopefully you can actually hear us. It's not working for everybody tonight, but it's great
No,
to
he
have.
knows because he says we're getting closer and closer to the Pine Barrens, unless he just looked at the title.
Right,
But
looked at the episode count or something like that. So we don't know how many people can actually hear us live tonight.
So he just said right there, that's a big line. It's because that moment he says, "Don't reminisce on me," because Danny Scatino starts saying, "Hey, do you remember that time that
Yep.
all those?"
It's
I
okay
don't know
for
what he says. He doesn't say guineas, but he says some Italian slur. Which
Yeah,
we're
that's
surrounding you.
and that's the thing with Tony. It's I can reminisce here with you, but I don't want to hear it from you.
Well, it's also not. He's trying to make him feel bad for him at this point, and it's
Yeah.
to Tony. This is strictly business. He told him not to do it.
Yeah.
And he tells him it's planned bankruptcy. He explains the whole thing to him. He
Yeah, I
goes,
mean,
listen, he says, if you had won, I'd be sitting here singing the blues right now. Like
Yep.
it would be me instead of you. Like
And it was a poker. It's not like they were cheating them in the poker game. It's not like they were running the pot. He lost. It was like he was doing all right, and he lost something like a couple $100,000 in an evening of playing poker. Like Matt and I are both poker players. It's your fault.
oh yeah, I still play poker. Like
Yeah, me too.
we've discussed this, and it's all on you. You got to know.
People in the live chat trying to make it work. Oakley popping on in every once in a while. The Drew popping on in every once in a while. Okay, I love this how Carmella is like AJ's big accomplishment is he almost came in second place in a swimming competition.
This is also Tony's hypocrisy. I want to spend more time with him, and then
But he did this, Matt. He did this out of spite because AJ ditched him to go to the mall.
I don't think so. He did this because he's actually scared he's going to get arrested right now.
I think
If you
there's a
notice
little.
this whole episode, Tony's being very pissy. He's being.
I think there's a little spite mixed in there too. I think as much as I do agree with you to a certain extent, I think there is. Because he mentions it later, or he rationalizes it by saying he didn't want to hang out with me. I don't know if it's his rationalization or there's some spite there. Because I think there is some spite. Like, I don't give a fuck. Fuck AJ. He didn't want to hang out with me. He went to the mall, and he's not even trying to bang girls. What the fuck? Like if AJ had said, I'm going to the mall because Stacy Reiser's hot and I want to bang her, I don't know. I was just picking two random.
Yeah, you picked the last name of someone we actually.
No, because I picked a first name and a last name of someone we know. But basically, in that situation, if you're saying that, if AJ was like, I'm going there to do that, Tony would have been like, okay, that's fine. Here's $20. Buy her a freaking drink.
This guy's hilarious. He goes, "You want to pay in advance?" When Tony gives him $400,000.
Yeah, he's great. He's great in this role. Is he Tony's lawyer throughout the whole run?
Yeah, so Junior has that other lawyer who's way sketchier.
Melvoin,
Yeah.
and he has a stroke or something at some point in time, right? Like when Junior's in his whole thing, he's like, "Your attorney has had a stroke." Have we got to the Junior scene? Have we missed the Junior scene where he's watching, he's watching soap operas? Okay, so is AJ playing Mario Kart again there?
No, he's playing. Looks like some version of
A PlayStation game.
Is it a PlayStation game?
I think.
No, it could. Would it be PlayStation now?
No, it's still. I think it's still. I think that's an N64 controller he just put
No,
down.
that's not. That is a.
Xbox controller.
What is that? That may be like a Sega Saturn.
Oh
or
no, it was a
something.
Dreamcast controller. It was totally a Dreamcast.
Dreamcast, one of those weird ones.
It was a
Sega
Dreamcast.
Saturn,
It was a
yeah.
Dreamcast controller. So this is where Tony's like, he didn't want to hang out with me. He almost came in second. See, Matt, I think he spite did it. I think he spite didn't go at some level.
Or he's spite using that as a justification for it, even if he didn't. I don't think he intentionally didn't go, but I think he's gonna totally rationalize it the way that he is.
The lawyer got way too few scenes. Yeah, Oakley, he did.
Absolutely did. He's hilarious.
He's hilarious. Oakley, 100%. Oakley, you get a fucking Tommy point.
Tommy point. Yep.
Tommy point for fucking Oakley. There you go. Dance.
We keeping track of these Tommy points?
No, but I think Oakley's winning.
No, they're just like the whose line is it anyways points. Like they don't actually.
Yeah, they don't matter. Or
they
that
don't matter.
That Chris Hardwick show he had where he's like, you get points and you get points. So right here, Carmella goes
No. Tony starts with the fuck you for no reason though, because Tony's upset. Tony's just short tempered because he's about to go to jail.
Yeah, but he's done that before. We've never seen her come at him like that. She comes at him.
Well, the fuck you's a little obscene.
Yeah, it is. He's on edge. It doesn't explain it, doesn't make it okay, but he's definitely on major edge.
But not only is he on edge, but she has no idea that he's on edge like that. She has no idea he's going to prison or he's about to or he's worried about it. So
AJ's the only one that has even a minor clue, and he doesn't know.
if we want to just talk about him nailing different fucking scenes.
This is a great scene. Yeah, he's
just that's what you look like if you've been drinking a bottle of whiskey all
night.
And
in fairness, just to talk a little bit about, again, bringing up Talking Sopranos stuff, you should listen to the Talking Sopranos, but you can also get stuff from me. They talk about how this scene was very true to who James Gandolfini was for real. They said James got heavy drunk like this. They were like, this is very genuine.
Is it really?
Yeah, they said he gets heavy. Is what Bobby said. Steve said he goes when James got drunk, he got very heavy. He's like not negative but heavy.
Right. Yeah.
So this is very much James acting more like James.
Whatever. I don't know. What's going on?
I just told you. Chat room.
It's true.
Is that it?
As much as I like Jamie Lynn Singler,
I love you, right, mate?
sometimes I wonder what the character of Meadow would have been if they had a better actress playing her. I don't think she's as awful as AJ, but I don't think she's a talented actress.
It's so hard to gauge someone when they're that young, if they're going to be a great actress or not.
But you know what I mean? Like the actress that plays Janice, Olivia, Carmela are all amazing. Even Bucco's wife and Rosalia Prio, all of them are and Adriana, they're all such excellent actresses and actors. They're on par with
Here's what I say about all those people with the exception of Carmela. None of them came in the pilot. They all came in later. So they knew at that point what they had. They knew it was going to be a TV show. They knew it was kind of a hit, and they could get them afterwards. Adriana wasn't Adriana in the beginning. Janice wasn't there the first season. Artie Bucco's wife wasn't there in the beginning. These guys were there in the friggin' pilot when they were just like, they got two kids to come play AJ and Meadow.
Charmaine might have been there at the beginning, but I get what you're saying. They didn't know early on when they're casting kids that they need to do. But I think Meadow puts off that she's intelligent, and I think the actress is good enough to do that. But she doesn't quite put on. And this is a good scene. This is a good moment where she talks to him, and I think she gets better as time goes on. But I think if they had a better actress playing her, I think they would have played the parallels of her versus Tony being similar more. And I think especially in season 3, when we get into it with her and Jackie Jr. stuff, I think when they start leaning on her a little bit more, it falls apart a little bit. But it doesn't fall apart, but I think some of the weakest stuff that we get in The Sopranos is some of the Jackie Jr. stuff.
There's a red cooler.
Yeah, red cooler that she offers him, I believe.
That she offers Danny Scatino's brother-in-law.
Yep. It's amazing.
So how are you guys doing? Anybody ready for another sandwich?
You want to go into business with those? Stop it. Thank you, no, Mrs. Carmela.
No, Mrs. Carmela. You're feeding me too much.
You might be able to use this. You said that Ramon backed over your old cooler with the truck.
I lied. I smell those sausages cooking. I wanted you to make me lunch.
And another thing just to mention, we can hear in the background, wheel in your mind keeps on turning. No song picked for The Sopranos is not on purpose. A lot of the music that is supported by the episode is very informant of what's going on in the series. That no song in The Sopranos is picked not on purpose. So always think about that when you're watching The Sopranos. I think it's one of those weird things.
And again, it's another thing where it's one of those shows that was first around when the internet was like a huge thing for people to chat. So it's one of the first times where people were discovering songs and they could look them up online and have access to them and know what they were afterwards.
Yep.
You think of like how many hits did that Otis Redding song get from the last episode? You know, that Lover's Prayer. How many people have never heard that song before? And then they hear it on here and they go and, when you go find a song on YouTube now, everyone's like, oh, I'm here because of such and such commercial. I'm here because of whatever. And this show did a lot of that.
No, and that's so true, Matt, that people are discovering all kinds of stuff, or TV shows. They're here because the song was used in X TV show or something.
Yeah.
If you go in songs that we've known forever.
It was like a Mazzy Star song in a video game commercial like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay, so here Carmela is. I guess this is a sort of continuation to something that happened in season 1 with her and the priest, Carmelo's been looking indirectly for some way to get balance in the relationship with Tony.
By the way, he gets a Tommy point.
He does get a Tommy point for. Oh, we mentioned that before. We have to give him a Tommy point. But Matt, she may act all, oh my God, what did I do? But she's been looking for this since season 1. That Carmela that we've seen. She's been looking for her.
Yeah, because her husband's an asshole.
Yeah, her husband's a serial cheater that will not freaking stop no matter what he tells her, and she feels like if he's gonna do it, I should be able to do it.
Look what Junior's drinking. It's a Ramosa.
Oh yeah, he totally is.
And so he's drinking that, and not only that, but Richie comes in with a red cooler.
Yep, red cooler and sneakers, and Junior is amazing in this scene as
he's drinking the Ramosa
as he's watching the soap opera. People want to know where we're at. I guess I can do this. I love he's just every Junior line is perfect.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to forget about him on this show because there's so much other amazing acting going on and amazing characters, but literally for me anyways, every Junior line is almost a home run.
He's on that's when you get into the debate of putting who is at the top of the pinnacle for the actors on the show. When you watch him play his whole losing his mind, he plays it perfectly, the whole thing.
The whole process of it, the slow process of losing his mind while still being so acerbic.
And then that kid reminding him at the end who he was to try to when he's in the home and he starts running the poker game.
Yeah, the guy from Lost, or he's been in a lot of stuff. Is that I think that episode might be Remember When, but I'm not sure. Okay, so this is the start, and I love Junior's response here. Mike, that's my nephew. How dare you? He has to say that.
Right.
And he play. Okay, we see Junior as daffy as time goes on. We see Junior being headstrong in season 1. Junior plays this perfect this season. What he does, his whole end game this season is he lets Richie do what Richie does. And I think in 2 episodes from now, maybe in next episode, when Tony's kind of sort of stopping everything, he basically lets Richie talk to one of the other captains to see if he can turn him. But he doesn't commit. And then when Richie doesn't turn the captain, he very acutely goes to Tony and tells Tony what Richie's trying to do. So Junior plays this whole thing really perfect, and he sets it up to Tony. I was playing Richie the whole time. I was making him think that I was against you to hear what he's trying to do.
And he just says to him, he goes, he couldn't sell it. If he had gone in there and sold it to Larry.
Yeah, when he's talking to Bobby. Yeah, Junior would have gone with it. And that's where Junior is smart as shit because he covers his ass on both ends. So quickly into the scene, Meadow found her college situation. So she goes to see Livia. And Livia, sharp as a tack here, no signs of dementia or stroke or something, spoiling her granddaughter.
Spoiling her granddaughter, and her granddaughter lists 6 schools she got into. Yep. And then she goes, but what about that other one, Georgetown?
Yep.
Just asks her, she knows it still.
Yeah, she remembers it.
Yeah.
She remembers it. So fuck Livia Livia is the queen manipulator.
By the way, if anyone hasn't watched this up to this point, Phil has a crush on Livia, the likes of which
I do.
Anyone have a crush on a woman of that age?
I really do. It's disgusting. But I also want to mention that in this episode, I believe in the last.
She always listens to the song. By the way, it's in the show like 6 times.
We get the whole thing with the plane tickets, Matt, where Tony gets the plane tickets from Danny Scatino that he eventually gives to Livia, which eventually would have turned into Livia testifying against him in court if the actress had lived.
Yeah.
So in this episode, we get one of the foundations of what would have been one of the end game things, but it didn't end up happening because Nancy Marchand died. So, but it got set up initially in this episode by seeing the plane tickets. I just want to talk about that because we see that continue at the end of this season when Tony gives the tickets to Livia. That would have been a season 3 thing with Livia getting arrested by the feds and them trying to use those tickets as leverage against her to testify against Tony, which I think they never said this would have eventually led to Tony having to kill his mother to stop her from testifying. But they couldn't have ended up doing that. I think in a perfect world, one of the last scenes of The Sopranos probably would have been Tony killing his mother.
By the way, she's essentially saying right here, Carmela, she's telling him to send Ramon
Yeah, she's
to the other job so that you and I can talk. Like, she's straight up planning on fucking him.
Yeah,
When he comes home.
Matt, she's straight up in the parlance of our time saying, let's Netflix and chill.
Yeah.
She's basically saying that. She's saying, come over. It's interesting that she doesn't give the maid the day off, though. But maybe she would have told her to leave early.
Right.
If it got to that point. This is a funny scene.
It is, because just the music they're listening to.
Yeah. It's played really well by both these. Like, sometimes you don't get both these actresses are better than Big Pussy and Skip. Like,
Right.
like for bit players, you know, they're both really good in
They're
this.
just sitting here literally drinking wine. It's so stereotypical of what these two people would be doing,
Yeah.
but they're killing it.
So ridiculously douchey. So and then as she
Like,
reads
even
this-
the jazz they're listening to is like just the weirdest, like the most avant-garde, like late 60s jazz is what they're listening to.
Now,
so it's
Matt, do you
perfect.
think this was a happy accident, or do you think that somewhere Tony's people decided to put this in the paper to try to turn?
No, I think it's a happy accident because they don't mention him. They just say it's a Soprano family associate. That's all they say. It may involve a high-ranking mafia member.
Brooks Bradshaw says you guys are the only stream that works. So apparently we're one of the only things on YouTube that's working right now. So we probably should have more people. All of YouTube is down except we managed to sneak on in somehow. We picked
Nice.
the worst time ever to do a stream right now, I guess. But thank you to anyone that is trying. I see people popping on in, trying to watch us live as I like pub this in a couple different places. So we appreciate you trying, everybody, tonight.
Now, Danny Scatino at this point
He screws up Carmela's good time here. Okay.
He does, but he also realizes at this point here, he realizes there's no out or no end game. Like, he thought they were going to be partners in the business and take a percentage of what he made. They didn't realize they were going to literally just liquidate his business for him.
Yeah, no, I agree. And plus he's an addict and he's blaming other people for what his situation does. Oakley and Brooks, I hope that ends up being the case, that somehow all of YouTube tunes into us right now because we're the only ones live.
Yeah,
and the rest
watching a show that went off the air 20 years ago.
yeah,
Let's do it.
Two assholes talking about it. It's perfect.
Yeah,
So-
no, 15 years ago. It's probably 2005 or
So
so.
Danny Scatino, again, really screws up this guy's good time with Carmela. Like, okay, I want to get into the real crux of all of this. Why does this guy decide to stand up Carmela? Is it fear or is it disgust?
He didn't realize he's seen this guy absolutely destroyed by him, and he didn't realize. I don't think he realized what it was.
So you think it's more disgust than fear of Tony?
No, I think it's fear.
Okay.
I think it's fear when he says to him. I mean, because there's a later scene. It's not in this episode, so I don't want to ruin it. But
no, you
they
can
run
ruin
into
it.
each other. They run into each other again. She goes and stalks him and finds him at a paint store in a later episode.
Oh, I forgot that.
She goes in and finds him and just says, "I want to thank you for not coming up that night and messing it up." And you see him then let out the biggest. He thought you can see it in his eyes when she shows up. Oh my God, he's about to have me whacked, or she's gonna have me whacked or something. And he's this huge sigh of relief when she goes away, and it's
Yeah,
not him.
I kind of forgot that, Matt. I forgot we see him again.
Because he is kind of like he's his wife died and he's a widower, and like, and now he just finds out that his Danny gambled away his kid's college savings. So
he's such a good guy though. He's gonna pay for the kid to go to college.
He really is. I mean, he's got like a successful friggin' company. He doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have kids of his own, so like he can afford to do it.
But Danny Scatino.
But then he says, "Oh yeah, this year."
And this is where it is. Up until this point, he agrees to everything, but Scatino, it talks too much.
And I think he's being a little extreme. Is like, you've never seen dead eyes, so you've looked at them. I don't even know who he's trying to refer to. Maybe Richie, dude. Richie would scare the shit out of me as like a
Yeah,
person.
I think he's talking to Richie.
Like if your dog ever saw Richie, they'd get like their hair would go up and they'd bark, because that's the vibes that like Richie gives off. It's like that's like evil incarnate as a human being.
Even Lotus wouldn't like Richie.
Right, and I don't think Tony gives that off. Though Tony loves animals.
No,
That's not
Tony.
it.
Yeah, Lotus would love Tony.
Richie is straight up like, animals go into hiding when he comes around.
Yeah. The only animal he likes is Janice. Dun-dun-dunch.
Not for long.
I went on. Yeah, it's true. I went on.
I love that this is a scene that comes up through the whole series.
That Tony watching old war videos.
like propaganda about Patton and stuff.
It's weird. Last night after watching this episode, I went on a weird sort of.
It's not really propaganda, but yeah, you know.
But I went on a weird Patton like Patton World War II history Wikipedia rabbit hole, where I was like, oh, I want to learn about this stuff. And then I watched the amazing History Buffs. Everyone check out Nick Hodges' History Buffs channel of the Death of Stalin video.
I think his reaction of fear is more realistic than we're seeing the characters behaving. I mean, who wouldn't crap their pants?
If you
Well,
think
he
about
says in the beginning though that he doesn't care. That's the weird thing. He's
yeah,
like,
what
he
is
goes
that?
and
What is
hooks
that,
up
Matt?
with her.
What is it that he doesn't care at the beginning but eventually cares? Is he ignorant to what Tony actually could do?
He could be ignorant to the mafia. He could be ignorant to like they
'Cause
could ruin him.
another good point
I
by
don't
Oakley.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird reaction to be that freaked out by it.
Yeah, and then
By
he
the way,
makes out with her.
Tony, Tommy point to Paulie Walnuts there for calling up and telling me I had nothing to worry about. Check this out. He's in the bathroom with the wallpaper that his wife makes out with him in. With like he's sitting on the toilet in that bathroom. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but that's definitely like
No, it's
he did that on purpose. That he's sitting in there.
No, they did.
relieved.
They did not. Nothing on The Sopranos, whether it works or not, nothing is on by accident. They make so many distinctive choices.
Yeah, like he didn't have to go into that bathroom right there with the distinctive wallpaper. But they put it in
This
there.
scene coming up right here, I must admit I have done this at therapy before, not because I got off of a crime, but at times I've said in therapy, I'm in too good of a mood. Enough therapy for today. I'm done. And walked away. I've definitely done this. This is an iconic Tony moment at therapy. He's like, I dodged a major bullet. I'm not getting deep on this shit. Fuck off. Peace. And gets out. I love it.
I always forget that the Italy trip was this early, but obviously Furio's here already.
This is such a weird choice by Tony. He's basically saying, like, he keeps sort of saying to her, yeah, I saw this girl. I wanted to fuck her. She reminded me of you. It's such a weird kind of tone he's taking in this whole scene. He's being a little bit more flirty with Milfy in this scene than he usually is. I guess that's what I'm saying.
It's just that relief that he has right now.
Yeah, and he's using it as an opportunity to sort of be more the real Tony Soprano with her. And he's sort of like trying to play with her.
Legitimately, hours before this, thought he's going to jail for life. He's ready to go on the lam.
Yeah, he
wants.
wants.
Why don't you lamb chop it? But
Yeah,
that's what he's planning on doing.
Thank you, Furia. He wants to party, celebrate, have sex with her right here. Is what he's thinking, and he's trying to do his subtle Toniness to do it a little bit. Yep, and then he's like, "It's not working out. I'm out of here." Because I think he's very much in a more celebratory kind of tone right now. And I love her. And she's just like, fuck it. And this is, okay, we end, I believe. No, we got one more scene after this. This scene with Beansy. As this is a weird thing about Tony again, that he needs Beansy to take this money because he needs to not owe Beansy this debt. He needs to be over this.
He doesn't even owe Beansy the debt.
No, but he does in a way because he was protection for Beansy, Matt. He was supposed to protect. He was supposed to protect him from Richie, and
Richie technically works for Tony,
right?
Therefore, Richie shouldn't be
exactly. Beansy's not a made guy, but Beansy talked back to Richie because he had Tony's backing, and Tony fucked him over in a sense for not actually being able to stop Richie. So Beansy has
or have retribution against Richie afterwards.
Exactly. And basically what Tony's saying right here is I can't kill Richie right now for you because he's too important. Here is money. Take it. It's all right. It's all right.
I'm not going to take it. He goes, no, you have to take it.
No, you
He
have to
doesn't
take
give
it.
him an option. And then as soon as he takes it, even though he made him take it, Tony just gets to be relieved. He
Right.
just gets to get that off his conscience, and it's done.
Exactly.
Look at him smile. You never see him smile like that if he's not like sober.
He's so happy now. He's so happy because he can he can stop worrying about that because he gave him the money. He accepted it. You took it.
Tommy point for Beansy just because Beansy took it harder than anyone else in the show that lived.
Yeah, I would almost give a Tommy point to Tony there too for playing him.
Sure. Tommy point to Tony.
So
too.
Carmela here preparing the amazing food, hearing the music. She's hot to trot right here. She's ready. She's able. She's the seducer in this situation. She's actively pursuing this situation. And
if you have any doubts, she plans on banging him. That's it. And then
wah wah. Yeah, it's just Price is Right themes fail music, Matt. Dun 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 dun.
Her eyes just go over his shoulder like, where is he?
And it's interesting that you mentioned the eyes. Michael Imperioli talks about this in association to talking about Edie Falco. I think I'm not saying hyperbole to say that Edie Falco maybe has some of the best acting eyes ever in existence. Like the way she can elicit emotion just through her eyes is insane. Like she plays so many random emotions. Even in just this episode, as we see the end of Danny Scatino's situation falling apart here.
That's it. We ever see him again?
Yes, we see him one more time where we see that he's taking off and driving to Oregon or something. Like I think it's at the end of this season we see him in one where he ditches his family and he decides to go to the West Coast.
See, here's Tony still crushing it. He's out on his yacht with his son and he loves it. Like this is a fucked
up scene where you just get to see how Tony thinks he's better than everybody. You know what I mean? Like they fuck with people here.
He's also trying to like give some alpha male bullshit to his son by like, 680 fucking horsepower, like push it, who cares what gets total fucking Trump bullshit is what he's doing. Sorry, we shouldn't talk politics. It's
okay.
And
we give a Tommy point to AJ for driving a boat for the first time, you know. I've just kept the Tommy points up. I think if I'm giving my Tommy, or we'll talk about that in a second. We're gonna give a Tommy award for the I already know who gets our.
So do we have Chris? So no Christopher.
No Christopher this episode.
No Sil.
As this episode ends, no, definitely no Sil. I was asking before if we have Sil, but no Sil, and that's the end of our episode.
Song here, a Journey song, which is great when you know again that like that's how the series.
The series ends on a Journey song. Don't Stop Believing. And again, to talk about the music for a second, the music is just so insanely important in this series.
Yeah, and like those songs there, we learn, you know, as you hear interviews afterwards, like Tony was a kid that grew up in the 70s. Journey's a big part of his life. Like that was a big rock band when he was a kid.
So we're at the end of our episode. We ended here. Matt and I will be back either next week or 2 weeks. We're not done yet here. I'm just going to say.
Or 3 weeks if it gets.
Or 3 weeks. We're either going to be back in 3 weeks, next week, or 2 weeks.
A week in the middle, sometime.
Yeah, sometime in the next 3 weeks we'll be back for the next episode.
It's only because it's Thanksgiving's fall.
Right. So we're not sure if we're going to do it the Wednesday before Thanksgiving or if we're going to double up next week, but we promised we'd finish season 2 by the end of the year. And we have 3 more episodes with season 2, which culminates with the death of Big Pussy. So I'm excited to get there. We get the Walking David in the live motherfucking chat. I don't know if David can actually hear us because of YouTube problems, but David, great to see you. David is a co-host on the show as well at times, Matt, and David has just recently watched The Sopranos a couple of times, so we want to get David on here. At minimum, we're going to get him on Pine Barrens, and then maybe a few times here and there as time goes on. I need to figure out a way. Maybe I need to upgrade my Zoom to the thing so I can get multiple people. Otherwise, I can only have a 40-minute limit. But maybe I can get him in on a different way too. But David's going to be joining us at some point in time for a podcast. But David, lots of love to you. But this was a really awesome episode of The Sopranos, Matt. I know we didn't have a lot of our main characters with Syl, and I know Bobby's not a main character, but not every Christopher's a big one. We didn't check. Christopher was mentioned in the episode, but we didn't get Christopher in the episode.
Correct. I believe he's still in the hospital at this
He
point.
is. Carmela says to Tony.
She says to him, "Did you? Yeah.
Were you visiting?" So let's look at a couple of additional points. The stair thing. Perhaps Livia had a stair thing installed to allay her fears that Janice would toss her down the staircase, a fear that we learned in Do Not Resuscitate. Stairs of The Sopranos often are a place of menace, callousness, and pain, going all the way back to 102, where Tony told Melfi of Livia laughing when her father fell down the stairs. Excuse me. The suicide thing, suicide and suicidal ideation is somewhat occurrence in Sopranos world. Davey comes close to ending it all here. Previously in The Sopranos, depressed Christopher discussed suicide in 108. Allie cuts her wrist in 109. Macasian takes a header off the bridge in 111. Depressed Tony ponders suicide.
Oh, yeah. What's his name?
Kevin McAllister's
Kevin
father.
McAllister's dad, yeah.
David, you can't understand. I get apparently part of YouTube is down, and we're one of the few things that's actually broadcasting on YouTube right now. So I wasn't sure if you could hear us. Some people can, some people can't. I think the scenes with Milfy's office are particularly good in this hour. I especially love how Tony defends the statement that Zucca made to him in Italy. You're your own worst enemy, against Milfy's charge that it's a cliche, although Tony himself told her it was a cliche back in the episode. I didn't remember that Tony said it was a cliche as well, but I think that's interesting how Tony, that's one of those weird reoccurring themes throughout the series, Matt, where Tony repeats things that other people say and uses it as his own information. Tony does that in this episode as well with what Junior said to him, where when he's talking to Richie about when he's talking about Livia with, you're like someone with a hen or something. I forget exactly what it is, but
yeah,
a prized hen or something.
Yeah, when there's a scene, I think it's come. We didn't see it yet. I think it's the next episode, maybe, or was it last week? When does he confront Richie about the coke on the route? Is that last week?
I know. I think it's coming up because
he says the same thing, because Dick Barone says something to him about it, and he goes to Richie and
no,
says
and it has to do with a
Barone,
Junior breakdown later when Junior's dealing with legal costs and he's making more money off of that particularly. So I don't know. Anything else you have on this episode before we start to wrap it up?
No, just that unfortunately, well, I just said no, then I'm going to keep going into it. Unfortunately, this is the beginning of the Skip and Pussy thing that gets worse in the next two episodes.
It does.
It's honestly, it's so uncomfortable on rewatches. That's like, because Pussy's really not a good actor, and then he's doing stuff that's so awkward and out of character, and just
now. We have a couple more things, but we got to do before we end here. First of all, we need to answer the motherfucking chat. If anyone has any comments or questions, now's the time.
If anyone heard us, if you didn't.
Yeah, if you guys actually heard us or not. We're not sure with the YouTube thing. Oakley's in the chat. Oakley says, what was your guys' favorite scene from this particular episode?
Yeah, that's actually a great line. You're like a woman with a vagina. He says that to... He says it to Richie when Richie shows up at the mall and complains that he's got all these garbage routes, but he's got the most, like the tightest garbage routes that he has. And then like he responds to him. And then Richie goes, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Don't worry about it."
I think my favorite scene of this episode is the scene with Tony and Richie when Tony is being nice. Not Richie. Tony and Danny. Davey. Sorry. I keep calling him Danny. Davey Scatino. When he's...
The Scorpion one?
Yes.
Yeah.
When he's breaking it down, when you get to see the nicer side of Tony Soprano, and then you see him switch like mid-sentence, I think that scene or the scene...
And he has the awareness of himself to say, "This is my bread and butter. Like, this is what I do. I'm a guy who sees..." He goes, "Well, why do you let me play? Why do you let me play?" "Well, I knew you had this business here, Danny." And, and he's like, and then so Danny gets defensive, like, "You prayed him." And he's like, "No." He's like, "You begged me to. I told you not to play. And if you had won, you would have won, but you didn't." He's like, "I would have been fucked the other way." He's like, "This is how I.
Absolutely. And
Tony has that awareness of himself there.
100%. So I really enjoyed that scene because you got to see that other side of Tony, and he can kind of be in control of himself. Matt, did you have a favorite scene of the episode?
favorite scene. Yeah, just because it's so fucked up. I'm old school Janice when they're like, and it's an uncomfortable scene, but it's so Janice, it's so Richie. Olivia coming down the stairs. Are you smoking marijuana?
Yeah, it's
You're
so
like Rose Kennedy.
it's so iconic, starting with them having sex, going all through that scene. It's almost in a one big shot. It's
She breaking the joint out,
Yeah.
and then him smoking it, and them.
and her being like, in that whole conversation that they have where they talk about The Art of War by Sun Tzu and all that sort of shit. It gets deep, it gets dark, and then Olivia shows up and just destroys it, kind of drops the microphone essentially and zooms out of there. It's
And like you
great
mentioned,
scene.
Olivia comes down and seems sort of out of it. Are you two smoking marijuana? You Rose Kennedy, she seems like this old out of it woman, but then later you see her just on point when Meadow comes in there,
Yeah.
knows exactly.
Sharp.
What about Georgetown? Like she lists like 6 colleges and then asks about Georgetown. Like
Sharp
knows
as
them.
a fucking tack, Matt.
Yep.
Sharp as a fucking tack. And that's again, yes, I am licking her labia all up and down. I don't give a shit.
That's so awful.
And because she is just so amazing. She brings so much to this character. It's one of those things that, and we're going to talk about this because we're actually, now that we're doing this, I'm excited because we're actually going to finish the series, and I can't wait to talk about an episode like Pine Barrens. I can't wait to talk about the finale when we finally get to it. But I do want to mention, because we're in the final 3 episodes of Olivia. I don't know if she shows up in every episode, but after this season, the only time we see her is in a digitally animated version before her quote-unquote death on the series. So much of what The Sopranos was supposed to be and supposed to conclude with in the story arc was so much about Tony and his mother that a lot of me wonders that when we talk about The Sopranos in comparison to other great series as the greatest series of all time, it's just interesting to me to take into account that The Sopranos wasn't able to do what I believe was its ultimate conclusion, was in the final episode or final second episode with Tony actually killing his mother.
And what an amazing relationship she has with Junior. And if you get to watch that throughout it, and then as Junior starts to lose his faculties, if that played out anyways, and she's still there, throughout the whole series, how crazy that would have been.
Absolutely. Fill my ears. Is there a weird sound? Am I too loud? Am I?
Oh no! It was the labia comment.
Oh, licking my labia.
I
Yes.
believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. Oakley,
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
It's my ears after hearing him
Matt,
say
that's
that.
probably what it was. I forget sometimes that the chat is delayed by about 30 seconds or so. So
Yeah.
yes, that's exactly what it was. I wasn't sure. I just have to make sure that it wasn't that my microphone was too loud and I was blowing people's ears out. Like, I don't mind if I'm turning people off because I'm talking too many disgusting.
I mean, you're turning Livia on, which is
Oh
the main
yeah,
thing.
I would happily turn Olivia on any day of the week. Okay, but I
Another great scene you said, and another was just we mentioned it when I was there, but just drunk Tony with a bottle sitting at the table.
Yeah,
Creepily. No, I like the dark room.
great scene. So here we go. Who gets your Tommy Award for the night for The Sopranos?
Now, listen. Unfortunately, because the chat's been such a shit
No, the
show,
chat-
not the chat's fault.
The
because
chat.
they
I'm
went-
giving the Tommy Award for the chat to Oakley, because Oakley was able to actually listen to us most of the way through somehow, and that takes some hustle.
So I'm doing Tommy points the next episode as well. Then I'm going to keep this going for, you know what? Maybe until the end of season 2. This is not a Tommy. Our whole lives, Phil, has been around, so we're gonna.
I agree.
we'll give him the other
I think the Tommy. I'm gonna keep the Tommy point little the GIF involved here. I'm not gonna take it out of the. We're gonna use this Tommy point is just gonna become part of the Sopranos podcast now. We're gonna give every episode a Tommy point. So the Tommy point in this episode. In the chat, the Tommy point absolutely goes to Oakley. As much as we've had some other motherfucking chatters popping on in, Oakley's been with us almost this whole time through, and able to somehow withstand YouTube's failure tonight and find a way to kind of be a part of the show tonight. So a lot of people get honorable mention, but the Tommy point goes to Oakley in the chat. For the episode, what character And wait, let's play a little.
You're not gonna like my.
Let's play some music.
Who I say?
For Oakley. Oakley's our shit buddy tonight.
Don't have to worry, get your shit, buddy.
You win tonight. You're our shit buddy. We're gonna take you.
Congratulations.
Shit buddy is in the zombie apocalypse. Who you take with you to watch you while you take a shit. To make sure you don't get eaten by a zombie. But Oakley wins the award tonight because Oakley had the intestinal fortitude. Tommy, he put it out there on the floor. He came into the motherfucking chat and he offered fucking some information, some fucking good questions to keep the fucking discussion going. Fucking Tommy points for fucking Oakley. I believe the real Tommy would have said fuck if he could have. If they let him do it, he would have. I believe in real life, Tommy dropped a lot of F-bombs, is what I'm saying, Matt. So for the episode, who's your Tommy point?
Paulie.
Okay, that's a good pick. Paulie Walnuts is a good pick.
He's reliable. He's the one. Tony is counting on Paulie to find out his fucking fate for him, essentially.
And he's a lesser character doing that yeoman's work, and that's the Tommy points get picked up. I might have picked Paulie. Paulie was my initial instinct for Tommy points in this episode, but I'm gonna go with a twofer because I like to cheat. I'm gonna give it to probably your Tommy point winner on the overall Sopranos. This guy wins it every time in the Sopranos. I'm going with Artie Bucco because
he wasn't even in it.
He was in one scene with the I got this. I got a great
Remlosa. I got a great deal on the Remlosa. I know you wanted Pellegrino, but
and more specifically, I'm going with the lawyer, Tony's lawyer.
Yeah, good.
Junior kind of might deserve some Tommy points too.
The guy hooked up with Carmela, like that's Tommy points.
That's Tommy points. Yeah, Tommy points for him too. But our Tommy point award winner, you go Paulie Walnuts.
I go Paulie Walnuts.
Yeah, I'll go with you on that one. Paulie Walnuts being Tony's ride or die, as they say.
You gotta let. I'm sitting here laughing. I'm 5 minutes away from going to jail. You gotta skip.
You gotta skip. Yeah. To Paulie Walnuts, the guy you want in a tough situation. You're stuck in a bunker, as they say, as Steve Sciarippo said on the Talking Sopranos podcast. You want a guy. I just never like quoting someone without trying to give the respect that I'm quoting what they said. But Tony Sciarippo said this. Bobby Bacala. You're in a bunker. You want Paulie Walnuts on your side. And that's absolutely true. And he comes to play this episode. Paulie Walnuts and Oakley are our Tommy winners, of this episode. Let's play some music for them. Tommy Award winners, Oakley and Paulie Walnuts. Whoa, that's some weird audio.
Yeah, that's not any.
Okay, there we go. This is some frightening dick for you for being awesome tonight. We'll slap some frightening dick across your face. So again, this was an awesome episode of The Sopranos. For me, and we've talked about this before, Matt, I think season 2 might be my favorite season of The Sopranos.
You're very anti-season 3, which to me is one of the...
I'm anti-season 3. But season 3 has some of the best episodes, but I think the arc of season 3 is fragmented because of the Livia situation, and they needed to think on their feet, and they at least we're going to rewatch this. It's been a while since I watched season 3, but when I first moved to Salem after leaving my house in Swampscott, and I didn't have cable for a year and a half because I just couldn't afford it, and I couldn't afford internet either. So all I could watch was DVDs, and I had Sopranos season 3 on DVD. It was the only season I had, and it was one of the 2 or 3 DVDs I had. So I consistently rewatched season 3. So there might be something to that as well, where I've watched season 3 of The Sopranos more than any other season, so it's lost some of its luster to me.
I'm going to go with season 4, I think. That's the Ralphie shit's season 4, right?
And season 4 is a lot of Carmela and Tony's, like they get a divorce. They get
white
a separation.
caps and that stuff?
Yes.
White caps? Yeah, I mean, that's...
I mean, we're going to...
I think it's hit. I mean, the only thing with season 2 is it still hasn't completely 100% found its stride yet. You have the weakness. There's still parts like the weakness of the pussy and Skip stuff where I
Right,
don't
so-
know how much that's around in season 4.
I mean, I think if we're really starting to think about it, and because in the
isn't Christopher's heavy into drugs in season 4, I believe.
what I was gonna say is after Pussy dies, are there really any weak actors on the show?
I mean, besides Steven Van Zandt, like we're assuming.
Yeah,
he is,
but
like,
Steven Van Zandt might be a weak actor,
fine.
but it's only because he can only play Syl. Like
and
if
it's
you,
fine, right?
he's good at playing Syl. He's good in that. Did you watch Lilyhammers at all?
No.
It was his show that he did. It was a Netflix series that he played a gangster that entered witness protection or something and went to like Alaska or something, or went to like it was Norway or Sweden or something like that. I forget which one it was. And it's Stevie Van Zandt playing Syl in that situation. He can only play that character, but he's very good at playing that character.
Sure.
Would you say that? Would you say the same thing about Pussy? Would you say the same thing about Pussy?
No, because I don't think he does a good job of playing pussy.
Right. Okay.
He's
That's
really
my point.
bad in those seasons. He's really bad. He's really bad in those scenes. Yeah, I know what he said, and it just.
So after Pussy dies, are there really
Steven Shrippa's not a great actor.
No, but he has some moments that are pretty good because I think he gets better as time goes on. I think in the final season, Bobby is a lot better than he is early on.
Yes.
Because I think
And again, the problem is he's playing against, like, Christopher is an incredible actor. James Gandolfini is an incredible actor. Junior, who he's in all these scenes with, is an absolutely incredible actor. Like those are probably the 3 best male actors in the show.
and just to be like, and he marries Janice, who
an incredible actor.
Aida Totoro is one of the best actors on the fucking show too. It's so he's always matched up with those people. So it's worth mentioning that he holds his own, but I don't think he ever stands out when they give him some heavier stuff to do, like when his wife dies and all that sort of stuff. I think he steps up to the plate in the way that Pussy doesn't. You know, or I think him and Paulie, when they give them more stuff to do, they can handle it, even though they're not great actors. I think Stevie Van Zandt, I want to watch that as we go, because I think in season 4 and 5, they give Syl a little bit more of a storyline. I think they're very strategic with the way they write and use Syl.
Of course.
They don't use Syl enough to have him really have any arc. Does Syl have an arc on the show ever? There's a small one.
And when he gets thrust into the role of being Tony, he just I'm more of a number 2. His wife's a terrible actress.
Right, his wife's a terrible actress too. But
she's never in it.
The only arc they really have with him is when they have that brief time, and I don't even get it, and this is where they get weird with him, because I don't even get the understanding of it when they have that whole thing where he's working against Tony for some reason. Like I don't.
Yeah, it's only like an episode or 2, but it's really weird when he does it. There's no need for it.
There's no need for it. And Tony
out of character. It's totally out of character.
Yeah, it almost stinks as he wanted to do more, so we wrote more for him or something. Like it's really weird.
And Paulie does have a time when he sort of almost
he gets some serious stuff.
But he has the option to go against Tony, but it's believable why he does. It's when he's in jail. It's when he's trying to suck up to Johnny Sack. It's when he feels like he's getting fucked over in negotiations with Ralphie later. It's at least justification for why he may be feeling out other avenues. You never get that with the Syl thing when it happens. It just happens.
It just happens out of nowhere. Like the Paulie one, they set it up through Christopher being Tony's golden boy, and then Ralphie being the golden boy too, and Paulie being pushed over, and Tony does it because of the Johnny Sack joke thing, and he knows that Paulie's the one that leaked it, but he doesn't.
Right, and he hates Ralphie. It's him hating Ralphie.
But Ralphie's a better earner than Paulie.
Right.
So Tony favors him in that business way that Paulie. And what Paulie's trying to do isn't even go against Tony. It's more switch families. He
Right.
thinks he has an opportunity to be one of Carmine's.
He feels disrespected almost and says, well, I didn't go through all of this to be disrespected. So
Oakley says, I totally agree. They give us the perfect amount of Syl. Even though this is one of my top 3 or 4 characters, if we've got too much of him, it might have become annoying. I agree.
yeah, or it's just like too comical, if he.
Yeah, and I think they almost were the most surgical with Syl on the show because again, they never give him too much to the point where they show his weaknesses as an actor, and they never give him too little to which you think that Syl isn't part of the crew. They balance it out so perfectly with his character in the way that I think early on maybe they don't do with Pussy. Because I agree with you. He doesn't bother me quite as much as you Skip does. Pussy doesn't bother me quite as much, but he isn't great. And I see why they sort of chose him as the one to be written out.
Yeah.
Because he's not... There's a couple of times on the Talking Sopranos podcast where I feel like Steve Sciarippa is talking about the actor that plays Pussy when he's there's similar in this episode of the podcast. He talks about how he's been going to an acting coach for years, and he feels like acting coaching in classes has really helped him sort of in the process of through the Sopranos become a better actor. He says there's some actors on the Sopranos, I won't mention their names, where I've suggested, hey, you might want to go to a coach or an actor, and they kind of go, I don't need that. And I kind of feel like he's talking about Pussy sometimes.
Well, because who else would need it? I mean, AJ.
AJ maybe. Actor. No, but I don't think that kid ever wanted to be a lifetime actor.
Yeah, we give them a pass. We give them
the kids get it. The kids get a pass.
When we talk about like who a bad actor or a bad actress.
Yeah, you can't.
Jackie Jr.'s terrible.
He's horrible.
So he's another one we say after this point after Pussy. He's the next worst actor on there, I'd say.
No, and he is, and we'll get into that. Whereas we're approaching slowly but surely season 3. So anything else you got on this episode before we call this a night, Matt?
On this episode, no, I think we're good. I like the, like I said, you start seeing those things that we talked about with them putting putting just those products in there throughout it. It's just, it was so much more thought out than shows were at that time. And just the shots in her office, it's weird because I think in later episodes, you see the entire episode is shot more like sort of artistically. In the early ones, like in season 2 still, it's like those scenes are done really well. They really take a lot of time in the way that they set the shots up, but not every shot is done like
no,
that.
It's true. The show gets far more visually daring or artistic, as you point it, later on as the show goes on. Early on, it was still treading that line as being almost pulp comedy. And as time goes on in the series, it gets more and more dark and sort of almost, I'm not going to say psychedelic, because I don't mean psychedelic in that way, but in the way, especially when you get into Kevin Finnery stuff, really...
Phil, another thing that's happening
heady.
While this is going on is and you want to think about the time when this was created, and it really changed between season 1 and season 6, was the advent of HD TVs in people's houses.
Yeah, no, it's true.
If you think of some of the shots at the end of this that are just these big sort of cinema quality shots at the end of it, those people were watching on that very first generation of...
And if we go to
of high def TVs, it didn't exist before that. It literally didn't exist.
Absolutely. And if we go to like the final season with Heidi and Kennedy, and when Tony goes out and starts tripping out and stuff, we see a lot of much more visually appealing shots to cater to that situation.
Yeah. Television never had to do that. People were watching in their house on a black and white TV. Like there was no need for...
I was randomly thinking of today that I remember in the last season of The Sopranos, we've talked about this a little bit before, that not many people had HBO, or we didn't have people's houses or things to go to. So Joe Dirtylocks and myself would show up at least for the final 3 or 4 weeks of The Sopranos. I don't think it was the final episode, but I think most of the final season, Joe and I would show up at your house, not even invited. Like you didn't even want us there. We would
you were like Apadillas. So I didn't even have a couch. We were sitting in like folding chairs in a living room watching this.
Watching it because Matt was the only one.
And not on an HD TV because I didn't have any money at the time.
Nope.
Like,
but you were the only. You didn't have any money, but you were the only one of us that had HBO at the time.
But other people that had money were watching on HD TV. Like that was the thing.
Yeah, but I remember specifically Was it 6A or 6B? Because was it all the Kevin Finnery stuff that we were watching at your house, or was it that final season? I think it was the Kevin. I want to say it was the Kevin Finnery stuff.
Yeah, I don't even know, but we were sitting in my living room, like,
And it wasn't just once.
in the apartment in Lynn, right?
It was
I
a
know.
whole half a season. It was
Yeah.
It was either 6A or 6B. I'm not
Yeah.
exactly sure. It was one of the two. And it was a whole season that Joe and I would just show up at Matt's house. We're watching the episode at your house. There's no chance. And Matt would be like, oh God, you guys are fucking here. Like, I'm not even settled in. I don't have a fucking couch. I can't. I'm sitting in a kitchen chair,
chairs. Yeah.
which eventually turned into the kitchen that we played poker and had the infamous Total and Cheese. I believe it's Queen 8.
Was that in Lynn?
It was in Lynn. It was in that place. It was the time I'd returned to that apartment after you actually had it set up. It was the first time I was back in your apartment after the Sopranos.
And that was the
time.
Total and Cheese.
Total and
Okay.
Cheese, yeah. Where I believe it's Queen 8. I believe Queen 8 was Total and Cheese.
Okay. And that would have also, I mean, you played Total and Cheese over at the PD's place too. But
yeah,
whatever.
we did. Which Total and Cheese came from that we were at Matt's house playing poker late one night, and we were all very hungry. All pizza places were closed. There weren't excessive Domino's around at the time. I had some Total that I brought with me, as I like to bring
The
snacks.
cereal, in case someone doesn't
The
know.
cereal,
what
like
he's talking
whole
about.
grain,
The cereal
whole
Total,
grain
yeah.
Total. And Matt had some cheddar cheese, so we decided we didn't have crackers.
Probably doing Atkins at the time, like I always did for like off and on for 5 years.
So for satisfying hunger purposes, we decided to combine the Total and the cheese, and surprisingly, it was good. And we all started to like it. And then my cousin Alan won a big hand with a shitty hand, and he referred to his hand as, I'm going to call this hand forever, Total and Cheese, and I believe it was a Queen 8. Alan often won with shitty hands. So.
Yep. There was a time when Alan first started playing with all those guys, though, where he dominated like the first 6.
I remember that. I remember that every game we went to, Alan walked away up money, and it frustrated everyone because, and Alan, you might be watching this. I love you to death, but you play shitty poker.
Well, the thing was, a lot of the people that play there learned to get better. Like I stopped. There's a time when we played every hand, and like you grow out of it. So.
Right, but Alan at that time tended to play crappy hands and was on a very lucky streak during that time period, and getting some lucky hands in those 2 or 3 weeks. He eventually went back to reality and then improved his game, as we all did. And we all do when we play in sort of a bubble like that. But at that time, in those 3 or 4 week period of time that you're talking about, Alan wasn't playing very good poker, and he was getting paid off. I call that Dave Martinezing.
Yes.
I love Dave, but Dave gets paid off for some bad plays historically. Yep. He's a lucky motherfucker, more than he's good. And some people are both. Someone like Mac is both, but some people are just lucky, like Dave and Alan. They're not.
And some people are very unlucky, like Joe Dirty Locks.
Like Joe Dirty. Joe Dirty Locks is the most unlucky poker player you'll ever see, and he tilts like no one in the world.
He compounds it by once he loses 1 or 2 hands, just. It's a reckless abandon I've never seen someone else take at a poker table.
It's like our friend that we were mentioning earlier at a blackjack table. He'll just grab handfuls of chips and throw them into the pot when
it's quite a meltdown. You've never seen like Joe losing at poker is a whole.
You think Joe freaks out at The Walking Dead? You should see Joe at a poker table when he starts losing money.
It's awful.
Yeah, it's next level. I hope to be able to show that somehow to some people at some point in time. It's hard to simulate. But yeah, Joe is a very good poker player, but he tends to be unlucky, so people go in hands with him to try to put him on tilt. Because
then he's a very bad poker player.
Yes. When Joe is clear-minded, he's an exceptional. All the Grants are great poker players. Joe, Larry, Martin are all very good. Ben's maybe, and I say this to Joe, and Joe's like, "Fuck you," but I would say Ben's the best of all of them. But like, all of them are very good poker players. Joe, at his best, may be the best, but you put Joe on tilt, he's maybe one of the top 3 or 4 worst poker players on earth.
Yep.
And it's amazing to watch. I remember Joe when where his apartment is right now, at one point in time he had turned it into a poker room. And
those are like great memories, even for those other guys that like they used to play with us, like the McNamara and Mike.
PD and
they
stuff.
loved those games. Those were great because it was just like it was so much fun. It was just a lot
great
of whiskey,
games, great games,
whiskey and $5 buy-ins.
And so. Joe losing because Joe smartly made that game a very cheap buy-in game, similar to the Elia game. $5 that Elia made $2 because even more specifically, Elia was like, I don't want people to lose a lot of money here. But Joe wasn't about that. Joe was about himself. Joe was like, I'm going to do $5 because I don't want to tilt out too much. And invariably, Joe would lose in the first 10 or 15 minutes, not 10, first hour of play. And then he'd just be pissed off. You would all be at his house and he'd be sitting there like dealing for you, but being pissed off about it. Like, fuck you guys. But yeah, great table, great setup. And I miss those days sometimes, Matt.
Yeah.
I miss those poker days, but it's tough. I mean, one, you live far away, but even, with what's going on now, poker's one of those things that'll be one of those last things that comes back.
Right.
But anyways, Matt and I will be back either next week, the week after, or the week sometime in the next 3 weeks. Matt and I will be back for another Sopranos episode. I believe the episode is called House Arrest. And we're going to finish season 2 by the end of the year. Hopefully next week or whenever we go on again in a couple of weeks, it won't be a day YouTube decides to do an update. We don't have anyone live, but we do appreciate, since you guys are reminiscing, I always wondered how we met. How Matt and I met initially is in the 3rd grade. Was it 3rd grade?
5th grade.
5th grade. Matt had come to elementary school, the same elementary school that I lived at, but at the same time, around the similar time that we were about to start elementary school together, Matt and I also lived about 3 minutes away from each other. Because I think we
wasn't the very first year I lived.
I feel like
Will
I met.
Harris's house. I lived in Will Harris's house that first
Right,
year.
and I feel like I met you before we started school in the park. Like
Sure.
I feel like I have.
Because I came in the middle of 5th grade. I came in not the middle, but like in October.
Right. I feel like I met you before you started school because I hung out with you a couple times. You took me to Lynn, to this place where you did wrestling, and talked about you being named King Kong Kane. Yeah, it was this like it was like a.
Oh, I know King Kong Kane, of course. But.
It was like a camp wrestling mat thing that you were like, it was like maybe a summer camp or something. I think
he's making shit up now, but that's.
No, I'm not. I have a memory of this, but Matt and I met somewhere in 5th grade, before 5th grade, when he moved here from the town next door. And then I believe we were sat somewhat close to each other in class.
Yeah, we were friends that first year in school.
Who do we have for 5th grade? Was it Squires?
Centino,
yes, Centino. Were you in
next year? The next year, over that summer, I moved even closer to Phil. So we lived about a minute and a half away from each other, and I spent like some of my summer going into 6th grade, and then before I became friends with like the Phillipses, and that was my
right, which ended up being convenient for a couple reasons because, as Matt mentioned, he became friends with another group of people that I have nothing but love for, but they weren't necessarily my friend group.
They're not my friends anymore,
and they're not Matt's friends anymore either. But he became friends with them, but then eventually became friends with my friend group, and in years where
like 6 years later. So
in years where there were droughts and stuff, Matt and I were very close to each other, and I'd invite Matt back to my house to play sports video games and smoke him up.
All through our like very late teens, early 20s, we were like, when I had moved back to my parents' house after moving out, and Phil lived near me, so we were just like, we just knew each other for
and Matt and I were talking about this. We've known each other since 5th grade, and I think we've been in one fight.
Yeah.
Only one.
Oh yeah, one.
Only one.
Even though we probably hated each other from like 6th grade to 12th
there was a time period.
12th grade is when we became friends again.
I don't think I had as much a problem with you guys because
I have a problem with you.
No, because Palmer was always good with me. So I don't think I was on the public enemy list of where he had you and the rest of his minions hating other people. I think at that
so fucked up.
I think at that time period, Palmer and I were always cool. So I think you and I were always relatively cool. Unlike the person we were mentioning earlier, where I remember you and him getting into a fist fight in the computer room in junior high school, and a couple of other fights here and there. But I think you and me generally were. I didn't hate you, but we weren't as close for a period of time. But
No, we didn't really talk through like middle school and high school.
No, through middle school and the first few years of high school. Not until Guru did we really start to be friends again.
Yeah, senior year.
Because
really.
you were
That's
friends.
when I started hanging out with those guys.
Because
like
you were
Augie
friend, but it was like through Augie and Gene. Because Augie started hanging out with Gene, and you were hanging out with Gene.
No, Augie didn't hang out with Gene until that's. But anyways, yeah, I was hanging out with Janelle. Janelle was going out with Nick. We started hanging out with that. And
Yeah,
then,
but I feel like I
guys.
got to know you again through Guru, and and that was through Gene when you were where it was like Sherry, you, Gene, and Augie.
But yes, but that didn't happen until that summer really. Whereas the couple months before that, like Gene was at college at that point. He's 2 years older than me. He was at school in DC, so like he wasn't around then. But your second senior year, yes.
Second junior. It was my first senior. It was
my
first senior year.
So that makes more sense because I was gone then.
Yeah, you were gone. You were gone. It was the year later because that was the year of Guru. That was the year I was in that band Guru.
But I was friends before that because when Nick was going out with Janelle, that's when I first started hanging out with all those guys again and like going to parties at Joe Glowacki. That was my senior year. Your junior year was like the party at Glowacki's house.
And actually Guru played that party at Glowacki's house.
But that was my senior year. Like so it was middle of senior year. I remember when it happened, like January or February.
Yeah, I generally remember that time. We started to become friends again, and then we got closer over those next couple of years.
But I wasn't for the first like 6 or 7 months that I kind of knew Phil again. I wasn't allowed in his basement yet. That was like off limits. It was too cool for me.
No, he's too cool.
That was like the place to hang out.
And, well, I wasn't invited to. Well, you're the one to talk, Mister. You're like George Costanza with your worlds colliding and shit like that.
Yeah, well, doesn't matter anymore.
You're like I want to be friends with these people and these people at the time. At these people, I don't want to mix. I don't want to mix and match too much.
They didn't want to mix and match. It was fine. But we spent the next few years. There was a park that was like 10 seconds from Phil's house that when we were like 18, 19, 20, even 21.
I just want to say, do you know who the exception to all of that is Justin. He's just friends with everybody.
Yeah. And yeah, he is. Well,
I know you had one or two bad situations. No, you told me there's like one time where Justin pissed you off, but other than that, Justin's like the sweetest. Sweetheart.
No, he's pissed me off many times, but like he's also my brother. We live together.
Right, but is there a bigger sweetheart in the world than Justin?
See, he has you fooled like he has everyone else fooled.
He has me a little fooled.
He does.
I've known him since kindergarten, but maybe he has me a little fooled.
There's a dark side.
I know. I've seen the dark side.
He's my brother, but there's dark sides.
Okay, there's a dark side, but even within that dark side, isn't he a sweetheart?
Yeah. He's a good person. The world's a better place for him being in it.
Exactly. That's what I mean. The world's a better. And I didn't know that. I actually learned about this in a trivia.
Both of his parents have passed away. I don't know.
I know his dad was amazing.
His dad was great, and his mom passed away.
Did you know that his house in his parents' house in Swampscott, like it was either
down?
It was either Emerson or Thoreau, like wrote there or something. They're like
no. It was his parents. His parents. It wasn't his house in Swampscott. His parents owned these condos in Salem. There's an apartment building in Salem that's like near the Hawthorne Hotel. It's right near there. That's where Hawthorne lived there at one point.
Okay, it was Hawthorne. But there was a trivia question in my family plays weekly trivia, and there was a trivia question that was about that, and Gotti, my cousin Jeff Gotti, was mentioned that my old English teacher lived here, or something about my old. It was something about Hawthorne writing X place, and he was like, my old English teacher actually owned that, or something to that effect. So I thought it was the house. So no, it's actually
they own like these. It was an apartment building in Salem that they turned into condos and sold. Justin lived there for a while, so yeah. Why I don't think anyone's listening at this point because I can't believe someone asked, and now what is it, Oakley said? Oh, that's really cool. You've known each other for so long.
No. Oakley asked the question. We earned this. We earned this aside here at the end, Matt. We did. So
the other thing is this: when we were like 18, 19, 20, 21, that time period, and I moved away for a year, then moved back for a couple of years, moved away. But Phil's basement, which was still like this, hangout that people would go to, but he lived right near, and my parents lived right near there. This huge park in Swampscott that at nighttime there was a set of bleachers that for like 4 years, everyone was there when the weather was decent.
Yeah, it was a combination. Don't forget about Starbucks. Parking lot.
Yeah, of course. There's like a cool parking lot. It's the most suburban bullshit in the world. Like we bounce between these parking lots nonstop. But late at night, we'd end up at the park. People would just end up at the bleachers late
playing
at night.
Capture the Flag too.
They capture the flag at 2 a.m. People trashed. The cops would always show up. We'd always run in one of
The
two
cops would
directions.
drive on the field and,
Yeah,
and try to chase us down.
Phil and I lived right there, and it was just like that was the place, and be anywhere between 5 and 75.
Oh,
football.
Milan
We're all
says
of our friends.
Milan
so-
says she missed 2 hours. I seriously hate YouTube. I know YouTube is shitty tonight. We're sorry for people that missed this podcast. We hope you go back and listen to this afterwards. But Matt and I are definitely going to be back a lot more often. We're going to try to keep this to generally every 2 weeks or 2 a month of these until we can get through the final series, and then we're also going to talk about the Sopranos movie that I've heard more things about between the last time I talked to you and now. I saw images of the new Junior.
Really?
Yeah.
Melancholy, I do want to tell you that you missed 2 hours. Just as a shortcut, you really only need the middle. So it started a half hour and end a half hour. The first half hour, we're talking about basketball.
Yeah, you don't want to hear the first half hour.
And the last half hour is me and Phil talking about what grade we met in, and like friends of ours that you have no idea who we're talking about, but somehow we're.
Yeah, if you're here for the Sopranos, it's that middle chunk.
It's the middle. It's like go from like the half hour mark to the hour and a half mark, and then just pretend the rest of it never happened.
Once we end the episode, just shut it off. You want to hear us talk about our.
I think for 5 minutes we talk about something useful. Then we talk about Dirty Joe Locks. What is it? Joe Dirty Locks and his poker playing. So I've also known Joe like as long, not as long, but like again since I was 18, so 25 years or so.
The only hope I have for that Melancholy is I think David Chase. I'm hoping David Chase doesn't give a fuck about that, and if they're going to do something.
Like, are they still going to sit there and like essentially call? Can I say words that are offensive on here or not?
We know the words you want to say. Like, yeah, are they going?
No, I'm not going to swear. I'm going to say, are they going to use like call? One thing on this show, you see it right now because they go through it. He goes through it with AJ not being tough. Okay, the whole thing with Vito and the way that Vito was treated afterwards, the whole way that Richie looks at his own son. Because he's a ballroom dancer. I mean,
they can't not do that because especially if it's a period piece.
Right, if it's an accurate period piece.
There's nothing that pisses me off more in a television show or a movie when you use modern day sensibilities, modern day sensibilities in a period piece. You have Vikings. I want to see people raping and pillaging. You have Mad Men. I want to see fucking blatant fucking sexism.
Right.
You see the Sopranos. I want to see off-color racism and fucking small-minded fucking awful stuff. It's honest to what that is. So I think you need to honor that. And I think if you're going to do Uncle June as a young man, you need to have Uncle June be Uncle fucking June.
Yeah, all they want is the coups, and that's it. That's their thing.
Yeah, so
they would say it.
To your point, Melancholy, I hope David Chase does not make this movie with modern sensibilities.
Yeah, they should be racist, especially when they're young in the 70s.
They have to be hateable, especially in the 70s. In the 70s.
Late 60s, early 70s, which is when they're growing up. I mean, Tony, I don't know how old they're supposed to be, but Tony essentially went to high school around 1980 is my guess, or like...
You need to properly represent that. Otherwise, it's just, what the fuck are you doing? Then make something in modern times. If you want to have something with modern sensibilities, which I have no problems with, obviously I'm not an idiot. I believe everyone's the same. Everyone's an asshole. I don't care who you fuck or what you look like. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's the same. That's obvious in the reality of the world that we always have lived in.
Well, no. In reality, in the world of like living in liberal parts of America, like it's not even like that in other parts. There's parts of Alabama that aren't like that, Phil.
Right, but I'm saying from my perspective alone, that, like, it's just obvious. It's not even something I think about, so I don't have to worry about my entertainment like influencing me. If I'm watching a period piece of the 60s or the 70s, I want
a period piece and a culture piece within that. It's not just that. It's not New Jersey in 2000.
That's my point.
The mafia in New Jersey.
It's like, ooh, scary images are going to no. If you're fucking have critical thinking and you're a rational thinking individual, weird scary images aren't going to I want to see a proper representation of the time. Yes, especially with the bad FBI to modern mob. Yeah. If they do this right, they need to do it. And they need to properly represent that. And I'd like to...
And that's a lot of sexism. That's a lot of sexism.
A lot of sexism.
A lot of misogyny. It's a lot of racism. A lot of homophobia.
Yeah.
None of which are good things, but
And I don't think they need to be represented as good things, but they need to be represented as a fact of it can't just be glossed over. Just like again, as I mentioned, Vikings. Just when you have the Vikings, you can't just gloss over raping and pillaging and be like, these are just honestly deep guys, or on Sons of Anarchy with the bikers or whatever. Like, you can't just gloss over the facts of what people do, or the Motley Crue movie you had on Netflix and what Motley Crue really did.
Right.
Or even Queen in the Freddie Mercury movie. I recommend everyone watching the History Buffs video on what was the Queen movie that came out last year?
Did you like the Queen movie?
Bohemian Rhapsody. It was okay.
There are few movies I've ever hated more than Bohemian Rhapsody. That's just me.
It was all right. It wasn't very historically accurate. I like the Elton John movie better.
Okay. I didn't see that.
Rocket Man was a better movie. I like the tact. I like the tone of it a lot better. It didn't take itself as serious and was. That's very funny you say that. There wasn't a movie you hated more. Did you hate Last Jedi more or the Bohemian Rhapsody?
Bohemian Rhapsody I thought was terrible.
Worse than
because no one. Because here's the difference. People were putting up Bohemian Rhapsody as like Oscar worthy, and I mean, people have even pointed out the editing in it is some of the worst editing you'll ever see. And there's a scene where they're sitting around a table, and it's just like they edit like 30 different shots.
Do you generally like biopics?
It depends how well. Like Ray's a great movie.
Ray, I was just gonna say, Ray, would you say Ray is the best one? I would say Ray. I think Straight Outta Compton.
I mean, it gets. I've never seen Straight Outta. How weird is that? I've never seen Straight Outta Compton.
Straight Outta Compton's really
criminal.
good. It's really well.
I've never seen it.
It's really well done. And they have Ice Cube's kid playing Ice Cube, and it's scary how much he.
Like him.
It's scary how much he looks like him. It's like it's like what's her name? Ben Stiller's ex-wife playing Marsha Brady in the Brady Bunch movie. It's just,
yeah.
It's
I'm secretly in love with her. But
she's amazing. She's incredible.
Dodgeballs crushes it in dodgeball.
Would you make her dress like Marsha Brady if you had your opportunity? We don't.
That's not woke.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're a married man. I'm newly single. I'm like, yeah. What would you do with Marsha Brady, Matt? I'm sorry.
She actually has a cameo in a what the hell's the name of the show?
Arrested Development?
No. She has a cameo and he makes a funny comment about it. I've never seen a woman with heels that make her calves pop out like that. What's the show? My Name is Earl. She's in My Name is Earl.
My Name is Earl is a great show. If you haven't watched,
My Name is Earl is a great show.
Have you ever watched Raising Hope?
No.
It's made by the same creative team that did that show, and it's very, very good.
Isn't it? It's weird though that they're super they're very Scientology-ish. The people who Earl is, and the other guy, Ethan Suplee. Do you know what Randy is his name in it?
Yeah, and Jason Lee you're talking about.
Jason Lee, right? And the guy who's in The Butterfly Effect, Ethan Suplee or Suplee, whatever.
But I highly recommend Raising Hope as a 30-minute situational comedy kind of thing. It's about kid raising a baby with his crazy parents. Martha Plimpkin's in it, who's in The Goonies. She plays Face's girlfriend in The Goonies, and also Garrett Dillahunt is in it as well, and Cloris Leachman plays a big part in it. I highly recommend it.
That is another great one as well, yeah.
Yeah, Walk the Line is an awesome one. And I'm so glad you guys are able to tune in at the end here. Walk the Line is a really...
While we're talking about nothing related to The Sopranos.
Yeah, nothing related. People are
This started with the woke comment and,
Yeah, no, it put us in the right direction. But I think biopics are easy to do shitty, but the good ones are really good.
Right, and the good ones aren't scared to really get dark. Like Walk the Line. Like Ray, as we just said. I mean, there's some if anyone ever did a really good one on John Lennon, there's some dark, messed up shit in there.
I know there's not music. I know music isn't a part of it, but the Ali one's really bad.
The one with
Will Smith as Muhammad Ali. I think that
everyone talks about how great it is. I think he does it.
I think he's horrible as Muhammad Ali. I like Will Smith. I like Will Smith a lot as an actor. I think Jamie Foxx is really amazing in that movie. But
Jamie Foxx is Ray Charles.
No, but Jamie Foxx is also in Ali playing his manager. What's his name?
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking.
Yeah. But I saw that once years ago.
And he's incredible in
hated
it. But Will Smith was, I don't think Will Smith did a good job as playing Muhammad Ali. I think they could have cast better as Muhammad Ali. But anyways, everybody, thank you so much. Matt and I will try to end every Sopranos cast with these random kind of discussions. We really do appreciate you guys pushing us a lot of directions. If you guys enjoyed this podcast and you're listening to this later, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Share the channel with a friend. Help us keep growing. And Matt and I will be back sooner rather than later to talk about more Sopranos stuff. As we mentioned, our Tommy Awards of the night go to Oakley in the live motherfucking chat.
And Paulie Walnuts.
And Paulie fucking Walnuts get our Tommy Awards. And yeah, if you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this shit. And Matt and I will be back very soon, sooner rather than later. And I will be back sooner than Matt and I will be back with another podcast of some sort. Really do appreciate all you guys' support, all of our patrons. Thank you so much. I try to give you guys some little side videos every month on Patreon, so hopefully you guys feel like you're getting your gist. And if you want to join in and help support the channel, that helps me, especially right now more than ever as I'm trying to keep this stuff going. And I have to replace my microphone now as it's broken. No, everyone, thank you so much. Thank you for popping in the chat. Thank you for jumping in for some comments. Matt, thank you for joining me and dealing with talking to me again. I know how hard it is.
No comment.
Yeah, no comment on that one. Love you guys. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.